Hello, hello, hello. What's good, everybody? West Coast Westworld Riders, East Coast Westworld Riders. How's everybody doing tonight? I hope you're ready to talk about that amazing show we just saw. This seems to be one of everybody's favorite shows, favorite episodes, at least for Westworld. Absolutely amazing. I happen to be one of those people. I absolutely love it. My two co-hosts seem to like it just as much. We're about to get into it tonight. Before we do, let them introduce themselves properly. We're going to start us off with the one and only the Broke Black Man 94. How you doing tonight?
What is good, DJ, Andy, the live chat people who are watching? I'm the Broke Black Man 94. We got to talk about this 10 out of 10 episode. Yeah, I said it's a 10 out of 10. I watched it twice, and I still think it's a 10 out of 10. Quote me on it.
Absolutely. We're going to quote you on that and so much more. We called a few things, got a few things wrong, got a few more right, got a few more that people are saying wrong, but I still believe are right. I can't wait to talk about it. And the other one that's going to be helping us out is our number one co-host out there, our man, Andy. How you doing, boss?
What's up? Now, you got to speak for yourself with got some stuff wrong, because I seem to be on a roll here with my predictions. But, yeah, I'm excited to talk about probably definitely the best episode this season. And like I said before we started this seemed like, the 9th episode of Game of Thrones. That much stuff dropped in this episode. It seems like, the penultimate episode of this season, and it's in the middle of the season. It's crazy. I'm excited to talk about it with you.
I am definitely excited. And look, I already got one thing wrong. I messed up. I said number one co-host. I meant number two co-host. Number one's BBM calling me wrong. You out your mind. I got him right, damn it. We're going to figure it out. Oh, we're going to get into it. What's up, chat? I want to thank everybody for being here. JD's out there going to be holding it down for us. And you already know he could be in here, but he's going to go ahead and mellow and be the number one chat's guard in there for us and let us know what's what. Oh, man, where do we even start with this episode? This episode was out of control. And the music, again, I mean, there's so many things. I mean, this show has absolutely ruined me. Like, but you have to look at every single detail. Like, you can't just sit back and watch the show. Like, I'm down to, like, looking at so many details. Like, I noticed that the lines on the record player had gaps in them to make it look like a maze. I mean, is that just me being a DJ, or did you guys notice that? What's up, BBM?
Yeah, that's just you being a DJ. If you really saw maze lines, okay, I don't know, man. Like, how many hits you been doing with that bong before when you watch Westworld? Does it help? Because these theories, some are good, but, like, come on, you got to stop hitting it because, Charlotte's a host. You got to step away from that, but...
Whoa. Charlotte's still a host.
Exactly. Not to mention that you realize that this is, like, video proof and facts. You can go back and be like, is this motherfucker crazy? Or are there gaps in the lines in the record player to make it look like a maze? Go back and watch it, people. You can be like, damn, this son of a bitch doesn't miss a thing.
Speaking of that kind of thing, man, I'm with you. You got to look at every little thing. I was watching it with my wife at first, and I wanted to pause it to read what the books were that were on the wall in that room. I thought maybe it would be clear enough to read, but initially I was watching it with my wife, so I couldn't pause it to try to get close to my TV and figure out what books they were reading, because I thought it would tell us something about the future. And it turns out I couldn't, on my phone, I couldn't zoom in enough to read the books. It got too blurry. So if anybody
out there... You wanted to see winter, that was it. You wanted to see that within 20-something, was it 2025, whatever, they're going to have, like, winter right there. You're going to see how big it is. So, okay, how long I'm going to be pacing myself.
You had it first. Oh, wait, no, this is in the future. Damn it. I want to know. I mean, I want to know how much time does that hourglass to sand represent? Like, it's just got me sucked into every last detail.
I think we kind of jumped the gun on where you should start even talking about this episode. How about the recaps? I knew it was going to be a crazy episode before it even started. When they were recapping, I was like, holy shit. Like, they're telling us right here like one confirmed. I knew from the beginning. I'm like, up, confirmed. That's his daughter. Like when Man in Black was talking about his daughter to Teddy, which we can get into that later. We're gonna get into that when we start talking about Lawrence. But he was talking to Teddy about his daughter, and then even the Lazarus thing with Ford. So you knew they were talking about like keeping people alive forever. Man, it was a great start. That had me locked in from the beginning. I knew I couldn't miss a second of the episode. I had to give it my undivided attention. It was
not only that though, they were like answering that Grace question from the get-go, like within the recap, telling us, yeah, we're not gonna wait till like episode, was it 7 or even freaking 8 or even 9 or even finale. They were gonna tell us straight up now, as if they're gonna get it off like early, like a whole bunch of stuff about, yeah, Men in Black knows that his daughter is within the park.
And they just and they dropped little hints, like the way they acted, and the way she's the one that escaped when it came to Ghost Nation, and Stubbs is like, you've been here so many times, you understand them. I mean, they were dropping little hints all the way through this thing. It was, and like when the Man in Black got to what was it, Los Mudos or whatever, Lawrence's town, and the first thing he notices instantly is like, there's no host around. Just like when Gracie got to the fucking camp, the first thing she noticed instantly, there's no host around. So it's like they were dropping like all these little tidbits all throughout the show. Like, oh, this could, like before they even told us at the end, it's like, this is confirmed. This confirmed. Were you guys thinking that kind of when you saw it, or were you just
like, what were we talking about that since last week's episode, man? Like 99.9%. I was like, Man in Black's daughter, and like that 1% chance it could have been Teresa's daughter. Like learning, okay, what happened, with my mom. But even then, if it was that way, they should have stationed her at least within Westworld or something. But nope. It was freaking Man in Black's daughter, and they were just hinting at even more. And the moment that freaking recap was like, oh, I had a daughter, bam, they just confirmed it right then and there.
Yep, I'm with you, BBM. Like, just like last episode, I was with you with Man in Black's daughter. I was a little iffy on maybe she was someone just working high up in Delos. But then after a rewatch of that episode, I was almost at 100% that was Man in Black's daughter. So, yeah, it was good. They dropped a bunch of hints like that. She talked about not liking people, so that's how she knew the Ghost Nation language. So they do have they have a storyline in the park. They're not just there to keep people in the park. So because she said she likes their narrative because most people ignore their narrative, and she doesn't like most people. And that's how she learned the language. And she knew Stubbs. Like, instantly she knew our backups right there. And, like, nobody's coming to help us. Stuff like that. She knew a lot about the inner workings of the park. Just like the man.
I don't think
people did come, though.
I was just going to say, I don't think she knew Stubbs, but she knew the uniform. She's been there long enough. Like, she knew he was security. Absolutely.
Was only that, though, like, not people coming to help. Like, at that situation when she was talking to him about that, it was like, these ghost stations are not going to kill us or anything. And she's like, wait a minute, what do you mean they're not going to kill us? Like, I was just at a park where a fool literally just killed me, and now all of a sudden these souls just like freaking captured me. Like, I'm guessing that's when she was like, yeah, I highly doubt like this backup and stuff is going to come. And he's like, freaking, those people are going to actually not kill us. I think that was like more of a conversation geared towards.
But just how they were talking, it seemed like they knew each other.
Well, he said specifically, like when she said what that native said after he kind of punched him in the shoulder, and the native spoke in that language, and he like just looked at her and he's just like, we'll be all right. And he said, somebody's coming. So like she was telling him what they were saying, and then he looked at her all weird. He's like, Jesus, you've been here so often you can understand their language. So that kind of tells me that they didn't know each other, but you know what I mean?
Well, I think it says too, like how they were talking, it seemed like they knew each other. Even with that, like it seemed like he knew her, but he's saying like, man, you come here a lot to know their language. But it wasn't
he's like head of security, so I'm sure he know. I mean, if that's the Man in Black's daughter, he obviously knows of her. I mean, so yeah, I mean, you're probably right. They probably have met somewhere along the way. But he obviously knows who she is. The way he said that, it didn't seem like they had met before.
Well, he knew the Men in Black. He knew the Men in Black though, because remember when he was in season 1 when he was originally in Lawrence's town and he was killing all those hosts and stuff. They're like, wait a minute, should we do something about this guest? And he looked at the tab and he was like, wait, no, he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He knows exactly who they are.
Him, but the daughter, it's, I don't know, 50-50. He may or may not know.
Especially if she's going by aliases like Gracie, and that's not even who she really is.
I'm pretty sure
But
he's
is she going
blasting her
by
on the side.
But is she going by Grace though? Because within the episode 3, she's never been called by Grace. We're all just getting the word Grace because we all of us like looked it up on IMDb and it says Grace. So it's like, was it an alias, or they just put that there just to like throw us off?
True. I'm pretty sure he's blasting her on the side. That's what's going on.
That's it. It's like a Bernard Teresa situation.
Yeah.
I thought it was Stubbs and Elsie. I know a lot of Stubbs and Elsie shippers ever since they went and go look for that one host.
Oh yeah, all you got to do is be on the same screen with somebody these days, and they'll ship you.
Yeah.
Like
I'm saying,
and Sylvester, I ship them.
I'm talking about the previous relationship, old relationship, maybe just some hookups. We see how she is. She was just hooking up with random people.
As long as they were real, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's probably not, yeah. Who knows? It could be. But let's get back to the beginning of this. We'll get there when that's a little farther down the episode. But what were they showing us? Like, I like how they opened up and they were showing us his daily routine, and he's working out and going to the bathroom, and they show he's rubbing one out. And I think this is just to show us all perfect. Like, he's perfectly healthy everywhere except for in his mind. Like, what do you guys think of that open?
Yep, I agree. They're showing that, like, you know, he has all the functions of a human, and then you get your first clue that he's not. Well, not really. Your first real sign that something's wrong, like that he might not be human, is that he starts shaking a little bit, and then he fixes it and pours, but his hand tilts to the side, and it almost seems like he doesn't notice that he's not pouring it in the coffee anymore. He's just staring at it. And they kind of trick you by him looking at it weird, but we find out the next time we visit that scene that he's actually looking weird at the coffee spinning in a circle. It's not that he's pouring off to the side that makes him view it weird. So that was like my first hint, is he still was pouring even though he was spilling it off to the side. So it wasn't like registering in his head that something was going wrong.
Yeah. So, what do you think about that open, BBM?
Well, I look at the opening was that at first I was like, okay, is he about to like freaking transfer his like mind and everyone is just like testing him out, whatever, or it already happened? At one point I was like, okay, it probably didn't happen. I guess he's like still 6 away, how, you know, he's spilling the milk. But the moment after he has, you know, that conversation with William talking about, oh, we're gonna have an interview and it's gonna be like repeated questions, I was like, they've had this conversation obviously before. Then when he just hands in that freaking those papers, I was like, don't tell me it's going to be written the same conversation, even gestures that just happened. That's how I saw that first scene.
Yeah, I got to admit, I like when I was watching it, I was pumped. I was like, I knew immediately that was a host. I was like, sweet, they're going to do this and they're going to prove all my theories confirmed. And, my last theory video was all going to become true. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute, they're switching this up a little bit. But you could tell, like, right, and they show you, like, it was like, when I first saw it, like, he looks in the mirror and he, like, almost looks, and we've seen in the previews where he's, like, cutting himself. So when we see him look in the mirror, it's like, oh, shit, you know, something's not vibing. And then we figure out a little later exactly what that was. But, yeah, there was no doubt right out of the gate that was a host. But what did you guys think about when he gave us that little tidbit that he's dying from a disease he defunded 15 years ago? Holy shit, karma.
I think that is that's going to be relevant to him not being able to integrate into a host, because we hear later that they say his mind is fighting with itself or with reality. And we find out he's a terrible person. Not only is he super rich, but he's like a shit person. Whereas like what we know about William is the opposite. In the real world, he's a good person. So I think now this is going out there on a limb, but I'm going to have some evidence later when we get to later scenes. But I think this is hinting towards like evil people knowing they're evil are going to have a lot harder time integrating into a host body. And that is why Ford is sending William on a redemption arc, because eventually he's going to need to become a host or integrate into a host body. And he's not going to be able to do it if he can't reconcile like his own self. If he can't become a good person in his own mind, he is not going to be able to successfully integrate into a host body.
I like that. And what I really love about it is, as usual, you see one side of it, and of course I'm way over here on the other side of it. And I think, because obviously I'm sticking with my theories about Dolores being Juliet and Lawrence being Logan, and I think they are in there, they're like that, and everybody's like, oh, this proves that you can't transfer it, you can't do it yet. What I think this proves is you can't take the same mind and upload it into an identical host body. And I think that's what they're showing us by him walking in front of the mirror, and he keeps like touching, and later we see he's cutting his face up. I think that's his reality that he won't accept. His mind knows that the reality of this body is fake. So I think the Lawrence and Logan and the Dolores and Juliet, that all worked fine because they took their minds and put them in totally different bodies, in different host bodies. But I think the fact that he keeps passing by a mirror and seeing himself, and his mind knows that something's not right, I think that's what it is that's crashing it. What do you think about all this, BBM? Where you sit on all this?
Well, I'm half to agree with Andy, and I'm half to agreeing with you. To the point where talking about, oh, Juliet, transfer her like freaking mind into Dolores. Nah, I don't see that.
Hold on. Can I just say that BBM is the ultimate fence rider? I mean, it doesn't matter how thin that ledge is, he will tiptoe up on it and just ride that bastard 50-50 like nobody you've ever seen. You are the best in the biz, baby. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, I wouldn't see that happening though. But the way how they were talking, William Man in Black was talking about it, was like within a year or two, maybe it'll be successful. But by that time, it's like, again, the mind wasn't just swapping with the host body, and it was like, you know what, forget it. Plus, the way how of a douchebag he was in life, it's like, what's the point? Like, should even bother to even continue with this experiment with him? And also, we did say like, mention like people don't deserve to like cheat death, so it's like, I don't know. And now it explains more of why he's going to go and probably destroy this place now. But now it looks like the place is already destroyed. Like, I don't know.
I got a perfect fence riding position for you here, BBM. Something right in between. Since they said that his mind is fighting with reality, not originally they thought he was fighting with his own mind, but now he thinks it's fighting with reality. What if you need a host that has already been a host and has experienced the world as a host, and you need that to integrate a consciousness in it? Now you can upload someone's consciousness or how their brain works into this already existing system where they can merge, and the host can take its view of reality and impart that onto the consciousness, thus making it successful. And that's where you could get a Bernard from.
Absolutely. And the way I was going to go into that a little bit later, but yeah, I think that's exactly 100% what it is. And earlier I was going to say BBM, you're thinking it's more like a Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Gravitron thing, like the little blonde chick wasn't strong enough to go in and take the Gravitron, but once the older guy got in there, he was able to become Gravitron and hold it down. So you think that's kind of the host have to be, and that's kind of what Andy's saying, is the host have to be awakened. So maybe that's like what I was going to say later is Dolores is going around killing people saying not everybody deserves to make it to this new promised land. And maybe it's only when we're all guessing, maybe it's only the awoke host. Maybe it's still all Ford's plan, which I think that it is all Ford's plan, but that's it. She's going around killing everybody, getting rid of all the ones that haven't awakened yet. And they say that you have to become awakened by suffering. So maybe, you know, the dying and coming back, maybe that's part of their suffering to help wake them up. But I think you're absolutely right. And I think that's why Juliet and Dolores and Logan and Lawrence have been able to bond and that they're working out because they're a woke host. What do you think about all that, BBM? Is that where it's at?
Like I said, I agree that, you know, they can possibly make it successful if they upload themselves into a different host body. Even that's how I would probably want to come back. Actually, I'm still on the fence about that because I like to come back in my own body and just like troll people out. But even then, it's like, I don't see it just being in the body of freaking Dolores or even Teddy or Lawrence at this point. I think they're just their own characters.
I agree, but I have a thought too, similar to what you were saying, or on the same line. They, in a later scene where Bernard is back in that facility and he's trying to remember, he's like, what did we find here? Now there's two possibilities to what he's talking about, and we can get into that later, but I want to get into one of them. If he's talking about that, what did him and Ford find here? That could lead to Ford not really knowing too much about this place at the time. He eventually figures it out, and maybe without Ford's help is why they could not get this to work successfully. Now Bernard goes in there and steals it. Then Ford sees what they have. If he, in his mind, he can improve upon it and actually make it functional, maybe that's why he started the journey into night. If the hosts have to be awake first for this to happen, what if he's sending Dolores out to find all the awoken hosts and bring them to, you know, West, whatever's there. And this is all part of Ford's plan to have hosts prepared once they get there. You know, hosts who are ready to be taken over with someone else's consciousness. And the journey actually there is creating more hosts along the line so that it can actually be successful. Maybe Ford figured out something that they couldn't, and that's why he started this whole thing, because it's necessary to make it work.
Yeah, right.
And I disagree with you completely. Like the journey into the night, in my opinion, is just like Ford cleaning up loose ends with Delos. And just so happens, just like, you know, with the whole Maeve thing, I think originally he wanted Maeve to like leave the park, but again, like Maeve awakened, and then she decides to like double back and actually get her kid.
So why do you think that he wanted Maeve to leave the park?
Just to cause like chaos, just to prove like Delos didn't have everything under control to the point that it looks like you can see like, hey, a host can actually leave the park.
I think Andy was, you know, pretty much reiterating what I was thinking and saying earlier is I think they're that's why Dolores is killing all the ones that aren't awake because they're still on their journey. They have to go, and all the ones that are awake, he's taking this. And, you know, we heard Bernard say the same thing. It's like, it's not human. It's not a host. This is something different. And we heard Dolores, or it wasn't Dolores, it was Wyatt through Teddy. Teddy saying the story that Wyatt had told him. And he said he had come back from the fringes with some pretty strange stories. And he said that this host or this world wasn't for the natives and it wasn't for the newcomers. It's for something different, which is just what Bernard said. It's not human. It's not host. This is something different. And Dolores said, this is another reason why I believe I'm right with the Dolores Juliet thing. She said, it's not for the natives. It's not for the newcomers. It's for something different. It's for me. And me, what do you mean it's for me? We were all kind of thinking maybe that's just a woke, but I don't. I think it's for people that have already been merged for from Rogue, and I was going to get into this later, but fuck it, let's just do it. It's like, I think it's going to be, that's what Westworld actually is. This world isn't for newcomers. It's not for hosts. It's for something new. It's for something. It's for me. And me is somebody who's taken a brain, a real life brain, an awoken host, merged the two together, and that's what Westworld is. That's where they're going to live. That's Endgame. They're going to live in this world. Where are we at with that? Where do you think, Andy?
I agree. That could be it. That was the whole purpose of Westworld, and that would make sense if Ford finally realized what they were doing. He sees the potential in it. He sees what's going wrong. Now, I don't agree that Julia is Dolores, but it could be that he is setting her up to be. Setting Dolores up to have someone's consciousness integrated, and that this world is actually going to be for those people. Now, that could absolutely be what's going on.
Yeah, I think if it's not there already, that's definitely the end game where it's going, and those two will be hooked up. But yeah, I think in some scenes that we've seen, that's already happened. That's the case. You just think that's way too out there and way too crazy? That's not the case, BBM?
No, I gotta hear this question. You're saying, like, what's the end game for what?
Well, what we're saying the end game is that Ford, I mean, we already know Ford, you know, he basically made Arnold's inventions and took it to the next level, and that's what he's done with this. He found out about this Delos room, what they were doing. They didn't really have all the knowledge to be able to take that next step. He did. So he basically had Bernard go in there. He's taken this next level, and that's how he's merging. And we've always said, you know, he's going to live on through a host, and he's talking about Chopin and Mozart, and they live on through their music. This is Ford, and this is how he's going to live on through his music. He's found a way to bridge the gap and actually make host and human live on together. So we see later on, they say, you know, Bernard had to make a control, Ford made Bernard make a control panel for another human. We don't know what human that is, but I mean, doesn't it just have to be Ford?
Yeah, there's like so much points there. So about that brain thing, it's either Ford or someone else. So maybe your Charlotte's like a freaking host. It's still kind of wrong. She's not just an ordinary host. She's a host/human. So maybe that could be it, or some other character. Or for we know, it could be for the Man in Black, since you said like he kind of has to die and then come back as like a host thing. It can all just be for like the Man in Black. But I do see like Ford is again somehow alive. You can just see evidence of it with those hosts just somehow just like ring up. But him being alive, that's more in the game. But I can see like a whole Thanos Avengers and credit scene where he's gonna like turn around in a chair and then it's gonna be bam on Ford, but not in his actual body, because they keep saying like the actor Anthony Hopkins is not coming back for season 2 and such. So again, it's probably gonna be like in a new host body. But that's what I got for that. But I think that Ford and Arnold, or just simply Ford, knew what Delos was doing, but he didn't stop him or anything, because you can see like they're not having any success in it, or at least with James Delos. So he just left it alone. But if anything, either he sabotaged it, making believe that is the reason why it's not working, or he find out what's the problem, and that's how he's going to have this new body now.
So I think there's 3 possibilities of who it could be, who it could go to. One, obviously, it could be Ford. He wants it for himself. And provided that he found out that they were doing this, takes it, figures out how to make it. Well, once he does that and he figures out this is possible, that's when he sets up the journey into night, because we know it was recently that Bernard went there and stole it. Also, another one could be Bernard, where he wants to, like Ford realizes that Arnold is what this place actually needed. And he could have all the stuff necessary about Arnold if how they first came up with how to make the AI so realistic is by mapping their own brains, which seems plausible to me that if you wanted to make a host as realistic as possible, you need to understand how your thought processes work. And Arnold and Ford could have done that with themselves. So maybe there is enough of Arnold for Ford to think that he could integrate that into Bernard. So then we could have a Bernard situation, and that would have a cool payoff if we know that Bernard has the leaky head. If they go in to fix it and they pop off his head and he has one of those, the red ones, if he had like the red computer in his head, then we'd be like, oh shit. And that would be like a cool payoff, like the what door situation where he's like, what door? And you're like, oh my God, he's a host, right? And that would be like a cool payoff like that. Or it's for like end game for William. And that if you believe what I do, he's leading William towards this redemption arc, and then to become a host, that he needed that to give to William at the end once he's completed his redemption. So those are my three options who you could be.
Okay, it could go to like Bernard for Arnold's mind to go into him, because the first episode we see that first scene where we just assume it's Dolores talking to Arnold. It can seriously be Bernard, and then they just uploaded Arnold's freaking mind into him. And that's why it was kind of strange to us when he was kind of like foreseeing the future about him being on an island. So I can see that.
Could be. Oh, they're always going to give you a bunch more questions as soon as they answer something, but you have to just give it up for all the payoffs we got with this one. But one thing they didn't pay off, and I got some questions about, is what was up with the railroad employees, like killing the host and using them as railroad ties? What was that all about?
Was it host that being killed, or was it guests that were being killed? We never confirmed that. Like you said, just look at that one dude, and he just kept on moving. So it's like, oh, you see something, don't say nothing, type deal. I don't know.
I believe that they were people. That last guy that you see was dressed in a tuxedo, so I think that they are actual people.
Oh, I didn't see any tuxedo. That is insanity.
Yeah, he's in a tuxedo with like you can see his like a three-piece thing with the frilly part. And I think that why that's happening is because the railroad's never supposed to be finished. It's supposed to be a part of the park. So they don't actually have the materials to actually continue doing it. Just like everywhere else in the park, people have run to the end of their loop. They haven't been reset. So they don't know what to do. And these people are programmed to build a railroad. And so they don't have this stuff. And
right. But
Dolores came along and switched the direction of the railroad. So that's what the Man in Black was saying. Like the railroad's supposed to be going north, but now
why would she do that? Why does she want it to go west? What's the purpose of that?
Well, I think whatever is at the end, she's going to need an actual train to bring it back. So whatever it is, it's big enough, or there's enough of them that it's unrealistic to be able to be carried out. So they need the train to bring it back.
What do you think about that, BBM? What's going on with that train track situation, the railroad workers, and why it's changed directions?
Too soon to call. I have no idea, like, what was the point of that? I don't know. Again, if it was guests that were dying, just a typical group of hosts killing now guests since they're awakened. But other than that, I don't think what can, again, be the purpose of Endgame for the railroad situation.
Well, the Man in Black looks at it and he says, looks like Ford has multiple contenders for that game. So does that mean we have multiple Men in Black in the game right now? And this is maybe has to do with their arc or something like that? Like, what made him think that all of a sudden that there's multiple contenders in the game?
Well, he's going west. Wherever he sees, like where he needs to go, he knows is west. And so he thinks that's part of the game, right, to go west. For whatever reason, we don't know why he thinks that's part of the game to go west. But he sees someone else is going there. Since he knows what's there, he might think it's reasonable that whoever else knows what's there would need a train to get it out, or a train to do something. There needs to be a train there to deal with whatever is at the end. So that's his thought. And I don't think it's multiple men in black. He probably realized that it's a host that knows what's going on, and maybe even he might know that it's Dolores.
Yeah, that's what they're hinting. They're hinting like Dolores, Bernard, possibly Maeve, like the other characters who are of interest in the story.
So we just think that they're talking about Dolores there. We don't think there's another Man in Black situation or like other millionaires kind of that Ford has the same game. I mean, this is Westworld, and we know for a fact they have 6 different worlds. We're only dealing with like the Man in Black in Westworld. There's 5 other worlds with hella different scenarios going on. You guys really don't think there's another millionaire out there doing the same thing Ford's doing the same dance with?
Well, Grace could be one possibility. Maybe she's the one, and she's one of the contenders, I'm guessing. Like, I want to know if did Ford know that she's in the other park, and did he kind of lure her here?
Could be. He could know that like she's there, and I think her purpose in this, as far as like with William's story, is now there's real stakes for him. You know, he's reconciled his mortality, right? He knows that he's going to die. He doesn't plan on leaving the park, but he certainly doesn't want his daughter to die. So now there's real stakes involved. He's not going to, it's going to hinder his ability to just do like he did with Craddock's men and just get into a giant ass firefight. He's going to have to think about things more and realize that there's bigger stakes. I don't think that there's more Men in Black. I think there's only one Man in Black, like one true villain in the park, the way he sees it. And since he's the leader of Delos, like he's the only one with this kind of power. So I think it's his game, and just that Dolores is playing it as well. Like she's trying to find the door as well.
Yeah, I agree. This is his game and all of that, but I just say this is his game in Westworld. It's like they got 5 other worlds. There's got to be some other major scenarios going on. And we already saw in Raj World that the hosts are flipping out in these other worlds. So I just think there's got to be some other storylines going on there. But time will, as DBBM says, too soon to call. Time will tell. And speaking of my man BBM, I was thinking of him when I was watching the part when they finally gave us the Elsie reveal. I was like, oh, I know my man BBM was stoked. And how dope was that when she was like figuring it all out? She's like, you have a wife, you rotate out, you have a backstory. What's up, BBM? What were you doing when you saw this go down?
Well, I had to like pause the video, get up, and start praise dancing because finally we got the return of damn LC, one of the smartest freaking humans in the damn game. Like, I was very happy that he actually didn't truly like kill her off, though. He did strangle her, that's what I meant, but it's like, I don't want to say that's host LC. I know Andy or you are probably going to say that's host LC, but no, it's 100% human LC. And it's interesting that, you know, Ford kept her alive this whole time. I thought that she was at least going to be with Ghost Nation, like with Stubbs, but nope, she was pretty much in this cave, you know, surviving on protein bars and a bucket of water.
Elsie, but she was holding it down. They gave her enough stuff to survive. They didn't want her to die. They just, wanted to keep her out of the way. What do you think, Andy? I mean, I think Elsie was actually happy when she found out Bernard was a host. Like, it meant her friend and colleague didn't kidnap her and try to kill her. It really was all for it. But Bernard tells Elsie that there's no one else coming to save them because there's something that they've been working on for a long time, and they're not going to come till it's safe. So it's like, I don't understand, Andy. Why wouldn't they come to ensure its safety? Why are they holding back? Why is Delos not sending in recruitments? What are they waiting for?
I'm not sure why they wouldn't want to come in and deal with it right away. Maybe it's so they can keep their hands clean if everybody else finds out. But I think there's some weird stuff with Elsie. I'm not saying she's a host. I'm actually talking about the circumstance. she was there, not given substantial amount of food. She just had the minimum amount of food, and she was put in a place right near the exit, like exit of this secret facility. Why bring her there? Like all places, why does Ford bring her there and leave her there, and then ultimately bring Bernard back there? Like, he had this planned out to the T. Like, this just shows his brilliance. Like, we didn't see any extra food sitting there, so
Ketchup packet.
yeah, like, it was planned. She was on her like final amount of food. Like, she wasn't going to last much longer if Bernard doesn't get there. So, given the perfect amount of food for Bernard to get there.
Well, she said she had protein bars, and we never even saw those. So maybe she had a few more. But I get what you're saying. Absolutely.
Well,
She's the ultimate story maker.
We saw it, all the protein bars laying there. There was no unopened ones. We got to see Elsie sitting there in the chain. So
I just saw the empty ketchup packets. I didn't see the bars. Nice. So there you go. I didn't see the empty protein bars.
And so I thought it was interesting that Elsie, the smartest person, the
code cracker.
Yeah, what would be like the predecessor to Bernard if he was a regular person, she is in a place to figure out like what's going on here. Yeah. Right outside this secret facility. So she's the perfect person to be there in that secret facility to figure out what's going on for whatever reason. And then Clementine brings Bernard there. So obviously Ford wanted them to find this place is basically my point. He wanted them both to go there.
Oh, all the way down to knowing Bernard would be messed up and he'd need an Elsie there to fix him right away. Like, down to the last second, he was going into cognitive freeze. Like, he was done. And, like, right to the last second, and then she was able to fix him enough to go, which is another thing. She says right there, you're going to need this fluid. You're not going to last much longer without this fluid, but I turned off your pain threshold so you won't feel the pain. But then later on, when she goes to inject said fluid, she says, this is going to hurt. So is that two different fucking timelines, or is that just like, I never believe it's sloppy writing, so what the fuck's that supposed to mean?
The same thing would happen with Dolores, like how she was like, one point she thought that she was in this timeline, but she was in another. It's pretty much happening with Bernard in this season. It's parallels is crazy.
Yeah, it is. But then I did think it was weird with LC. Like, she gets out the computer. Now, she can see that he's a host with that. But it's like she doesn't really realize he's a host until she, like, reads all this stuff. You have a backstory. I thought that was weird. Like, he just handed you a laptop thing, like a tablet.
I find out this whole time that you, Andy, were freaking hosts this whole time or something, or you were just a simulation, and all this time me and DJ just talking, so just random numbers. It's gonna take us for a while for us.
And that wasn't her reading like you have a backstory. That was her replaying it in her head while she's looking at all that stuff. She's like, "What? You rotate out? You have a wife? You have a backstory," and then it all clicked. Like, that wasn't her reading it. That was her.
She's around host 24/7. It's her job, and she couldn't spot one right in front of her this whole time. The one who would she trust from the moment this all began in season 1. So it's understandable.
I think it just threw me off that she says you rotate out, and I didn't. Now I see what she means, like rotate off work and shit, like leaving the area. So that just threw me off. I thought she was like reading it, like, oh, you rotate out, whatever. But now I see what you're talking about. So yeah, she was just replaying it in her head. Gotcha.
Yeah, absolutely. That was her figuring it out in her head while she was looking at all that stuff. That was crazy. But I just don't understand why, if all this stuff's going down and Ford's out of the picture, it's like, and they're worried about ensuring the safety. First of all, what's the thing that Bernard's talking about that they've been working on for a long time and they won't come until they know it's safe? Is that even Peter Abernathy, or is it something else? Is it the cradle? Is it something? I mean, what are they even talking about there? But they won't come until they ensure its safety. BBM, do you have any idea what that is?
Is that the one part of the scene where they were talking about something and then they just like went to some deal with that door situation? Like they just dropped it. They were like hinting at something. Because they were saying something about, oh, it looks similar to Abernathy.
No, that was when she first escaped, and they were still outside in the cave, and she's like going, and he ran out, and he's like, nobody's coming for us. There's something here that they've been working on for a long time, and they're not going to come until they ensure its safety. So it's like, why wouldn't they come in and ensure its safety? Like, this is before they even get inside the lab and realize there's a lab there. This is when she's outside. She's ready to take off, and he's like, nobody's coming for us. So that's my whole question is, why is nobody coming for them? I don't get that.
Yeah, I'm puzzled about that too.
Especially when we know this is afterwards, because this is the exact same place, basically, isn't it? Or wait, maybe it's not the same place. That it kind of seems like the same place that the DNA sniffers were there and him and Charlotte Harrell went to. No, but this time they went through a cave, and that time it was outside. So is that just
those are different like Delos? Those are different Delos.
Different places, different labs.
Yeah. I don't know why they wouldn't come in, but I know what you're talking about. Like, when she's like gonna go for help, and he's like, "No one's coming to help." Like, they have something important. I think they're talking about Abernathy in this research, because he says he's seen that kind of encryption before in Abernathy. So I think that's what they're talking about, because he has that. He got that information that they're not going to come from Charlotte. And when they go, Charlotte goes and steals Abernathy back, right? So he knows that it's Abernathy that they're looking for, and he's the one that's seen what's going on in Abernathy's hardware. He's seen like what they're hiding as well. So when they go down there and he says this is the same encryption, I thought that was basically telling us, okay, it's someone's consciousness or the research into how to transfer that consciousness that is in Abernathy.
And they were making it sound like Abernathy's brain itself, like when they wiped it clean or whatever, because I remember Charlotte said, once you wipe it clean, these guys have quite the storage capacity. But they were like saying its storage capacity was as big as the entire park's storage capacity just in Peter Abernathy, which I don't know what all they were going with that, but sounds like my man is full to the brim with data.
Yeah, well, I know that they said that earlier in the first season at some point they mentioned that these hosts, they already have the brain capacity of well over, like I think terabytes over how much our brains can handle, right? So all the stuff in Abernathy, I think they said is equivalent to basically what they meant was all the programming in all the hosts of the whole park is what's in his brain. Well, that's weird considering how much more they can hold in their body than our brains can. So if it is multiple people or people's a person's consciousness in that brain, and he's full to the brim with as much data as he can handle, then that means there's got to be thousands of people's consciousness in that host that they're trying to smuggle out. That's the way I saw it.
It could be, because they are afraid, like, once Ford gets kicked out, they're afraid he's going to just ruin everything and just, like, take a shit on everything so nobody else can have that info. So they were trying to get it all out in one pop. It's just amazing that he really did have that capacity. Bernard seemed to leave one, like, Bernard, we see that he's the one that did all that, and he killed everybody and then had the drones kill themselves, which, oh, what kind of gnarly scene was that? They just grabbed the shit and just snap. That was so nuts. But he seemed to leave one host, one of those drone hosts alive, and then Elsie shot it. He's like, no, if it doesn't, don't attack it, and it won't hurt you. And she just blew it away. She's like, yeah, it's not going to hurt me. I'm done with that shit. So it's like, what was that drone's function? Like, he killed everybody in that lab but that one. Why did he keep that one alive? Was there something more to be done, or what was that about?
I guess something more had to be done. I'm still confused whether or not that one guy behind that secret room door was it either James Delos or was it that one droid that killed him? Because there was like no evidence that James Delos left that room
Oh, it's James Delos. That was James Delos that whole time. Remember, the Man in Black walks out later, and they're like, "Just let him be, and let's learn from his degradation." Well, he never really degraded. I mean, he did, but he's
No,
the
he was like
robot.
mad. Did he ever like freaking leave there and kill that one dude that was still there?
I think the dude went into the thing probably to try to calm him down, and that's
He
what.
was retarded though. But if he
Once
didn't,
the,
like, it still.
well, once the
confused me.
system went down, the door is probably open, maybe or something. Yeah, I
And
mean, who knows why he'd gone there?
I think that Drone was there to deal with the guy that was inside the room, right? If everybody else, you killed everybody upstairs, if you know about the guy down in the room who's monitoring James Delos, then you have to leave one of the drones there to deal with him if he tries to leave, because he's going to be able to leave with all that information and let everybody know what's going on, or even possibly to not let James Delos out even.
I like that. Just one for safety.
Else he had to like do some type of code to actually open that door.
Whiskey.
Even if he did open it, could he had to like, is it two-way thing where once you go in, you have to like, it's like closes behind you or some deal? Like, I still think it was possibly that was like the droid's like last thing, just like what Andy was saying. Like, if he escapes or notices something, it's supposed to kill him.
Dude, how sick is Bernard? He's like super droid. Like, they're both host and stuff, but yet when him and Peter Abernathy, or him and James Delos droid were getting after it, like, he picked JD up and just tossed his ass through the thing. Like, that was nothing. I was like, why is Bernard like super?
Winter Soldier, you have to say that few couple of lines, and then he's gonna go into freaking Super Bernard and start killing everyone.
I was like, how does he do it? It's like, he is like a super host. Where do you get all these powers? And like, is Bernard? I mean, is that going to be our big thing? We see Bernard is already one that has this thing, this consciousness hooked into him, and that is Arnold actually like put back into Bernard, or? I mean, yeah, we don't know, because the last time we saw Bernard, he shot himself.
True, but we don't know. Again, like how you and Andy were bringing up earlier, like the moment him shooting himself, like Ford makes sure like he would go straight to Elsie, which is still strange to me how, you know, Clementine, it's like, where does her loyalties lie? We first see her, with Dolores, and now next thing you know, she just brings Bernard to freaking
right, but doesn't that all tie it all in, that just to prove that this is Ford's game and Ford's still in charge of everything? Dolores is still under Ford's mind. Clementine is still under Ford's control. Like, Ford is controlling all of this. Everybody's like, the hosts are awake. The hosts are not awake. That's like, Ford was screaming at us to us the whole time. The hosts are not awake. The hosts are not alive. That was that whole thing. When the Asian tech was sitting there and he had the towel over the host, and fucking Ford goes over and yanks the towel off and cuts the host with the knife. He's like, they're not alive. They don't feel pain. They don't need modesty. They're not alive. So, and it's like, everybody wants to believe, because that's where the story's taking us, like, oh, the hosts are awakening. They're alive. No, they're not. They're becoming more conscious, and that's going to be the end game with this, so they can combine real people's consciousness with the host. And that's why I say Dolores is Juliet and Lawrence is Logan and such. But yeah, the hosts aren't actually alive. So
that I don't agree with you. If anything, they're awakened, meaning like they can possibly go off narrative and don't like obey to Ford's will, but to be fully sentient and stuff, like, I don't know. To the point, I'm still even thinking, even like, is Maeve still under freaking Ford's control? Like, could he control Maeve or not? Is the real question.
I mean, all we know is up to the end. I'll just let Andy go in a second, but I just know up to the end, Ford read word for word what she was saying. No, I'm alive. Nobody's controlling me. And he read word for word. Now, we didn't see him anymore after that, but he could have kept reading word for word what she's doing, getting on the train, getting off the train. I mean, like we say, when she's walking to the train, there's the backdrop of her and her daughter in the back window. When she gets on the train, a girl and her mother and her daughter get on the train right in front of her. I mean, all that is scripted by Ford in my mind, 100%. Go ahead, Andy.
I want to go back a little bit to what y'all were talking about while I was out, where with Bernard and James Delos, it kind of made me think that maybe maybe Arnold's consciousness is already inside of Bernard, and just like the hosts have to become awake, like they're coming to terms with their reality, right? Maybe maybe that's what's happening with Bernard. Like they need to be closed in like a loop at first, and then gradually come to terms with their reality. And maybe that's why he set it up with for Bernard to meet Elsie in this place, so that Bernard could start to realize what's happening and gradually work towards his reality, like coming to terms with his reality, because he is going through a lot of the same stuff Dolores went through, like not being able to tell what time you're in, like all this confusion and shit. So him becoming conscious, maybe that's like, it seems weird that they do it in this place where you're realizing that they're trying to make people immortal. So maybe he's hoping that they realize this, and that's what's going on with Bernard to become Arnold. It's a little out there, but
we already know that Bernard is different than the other hosts, because Bernard can use the commands to shut other hosts down and work on them and fix them. So for those, I mean, if you say shut down all functions, every other host in the room shuts down, but Bernard kept working, and this is one of the reasons why nobody else knew he was a host. So Ford has him on completely different motor functions and completely different verbal functions. So it's like he's already 100% a different kind of host. We just don't know how deep it goes and how far advanced it is.
Yeah. And since we're talking about now with Elsie and Bernard in that area, there's something interesting that happens that may prove one of your theories. When they're about to, Elsie's about to get into that door, right? He's talking to her and she's responding to him. But then he says, Elsie, Elsie. And she doesn't respond. And he's like, I'm not here with you, am I? And then he starts walking off and he's like, what did we find here? So is he, in that situation, is he talking about what him and Ford found here? Or is he looking at this as a memory and what did him and Elsie find here? And he's being interrogated. This is
exactly. That's what I think it is. And I've been saying that all along. That's him. I mean, all these flashbacks are just his memories. We know that. And then Elsie just told us that they're jumbled and there's no address on them, so nobody can do that. Obviously, Ford did that to him on purpose, so nobody would be able to do that. I mean, Ford's played everybody to a T, so Ford did this to him on purpose. And like I said before, said all along, I think this is just Bernard sitting in a chair being interrogated, and that kind of question right there is exactly what somebody would ask him. And he's like, is this now? What happened? What did we find? That's somebody interrogating him, wanting to know what is Bernard's part in all this, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting how that played out. Like he was talking to her, then he wasn't. But then he's in the room, right, and he's walking around, but there's not all the people around with him that were walking through the park with him. So when is this? If he's not in a room being interrogated, then at some point he sneaks away from these people and is in this room by himself, and is trying to figure out what's going on. But I think this is leading towards him figuring out, like, maybe that I don't actually think that. I think it's possible that he's leading him to figure out that he's actually Arnold, like that's what's going on. He's working towards Arnold.
You think that's where the loop he's on right now?
I think it's possible that that's what could be going on. Like they found the area where you figure out about the consciousness, and now he's back there by himself, and he's trying to remember what they found there. But I think that they ended up in this place is significant. Why did Ford send them there? Why did he send them there to see all this stuff? Not send them there in the first place to steal the thing. But why did Clementine bring him there to find all this shit? That's not a coincidence.
Oh, that was weird. We know how this show likes to tie everything back. And what if basically the interrogation he's going through and the memories he's walking back through and trying to figure out is, what if, just like the Man in Black and William was talking to James Delos, what if this is Ford doing the same thing to Bernard, trying to bring him back online? And so basically this is his cognitive test for the fidelity. So basically this is Ford talking to, and I always thought it was Floki doing the interrogation. It might be Ford trying to talk to Bernard right now, and this is his fidelity test, just like Williams and James Delos's is. What do you think about that? Boom! That'd be sick if I called that shit.
I think it could be. It could be legit. Based on your theory, there are a lot of hints that point towards the validity of it. Like this situation where he's like, what did we find here? You know, how Charlotte talks to him, like she gets in his face when they're standing there and it's like, yeah, where's Abernathy? Like that, how she talked to him, it seemed like someone interrogating him, but he's viewing it as they're in a different situation. Like they could be manipulating his mind to believe he's somewhere he's not. So when they're talking to him, he's not thinking he's being interrogated, but there's a lot of hints that kind of point towards that. So I think that theory is definitely plausible.
Absolutely. What do you think about all this madness, BBM?
I agree with you. It's like you said it time and time again in the streams where he's basically being interrogated, and you kind of see hints of that, like in the first episode when he goes into like the body of water and you see all those hosts. I think, Carl and freaking Stubbs and group already saw that. They didn't know what happened, so they just bring Bernard up to it, and automatically he's like, wait a minute, I know what happened. I killed all these people, because he pretty much just like rewatched it happen unfold before him. Even though, what was the episode, was it 2 or 3, where he go upon, like, what was it, the cradle, it being destroyed? He was the one who possibly did it or was there present when it was being destroyed, and they want to know, okay, what happened? And for all we know, within that same scene, basically relives and see it being destroyed, to the point where Andy brings up about, Charlotte's talking about, okay, do you know where Abernathy is? Possibly ran into Abernathy after freaking Charlotte and team like captured him and they lost him. He probably bumped into Abernathy. He probably does know like where he actually is. Again, this is probably all this interrogation, as well. It could also be, Ford talking to, a uploaded freaking mind of Arnold inside of Bernard's body. Because it would be interesting if he knew all about this whole time what was Delos was planning. His best friend pretty much died. Why didn't he bother to upload, Arnold into like the body of freaking Bernard? Like, why do the whole Bernard situation thing?
Well, he didn't have the information back then, and now that Delos had taken that next step and showed him, he actually has the missing piece. He's like, oh, so now that he has Delos's, he can put the two pieces together, but Delos didn't have that. So he couldn't do it with Bernard earlier, but I think now that he did find the room, and then he did, and put all the pieces together and can do it, now he is doing that with Bernard, and I think that might be what this test is. That's what he's talking about.
He's kind of hint that it could be possible, though, because the way how Ford was like, you're not the first Bernard. So it could be like all those times it was just unsuccessful, that now he just says, you know what, I'm just going to create the character of Bernard, and you just like allow like some like characteristics to like lean on and latch on to this new character of Bernard, just like with the glasses situation.
Right. And absolutely, and that could be why we saw the room with all those different Bernards, because every time he fails the fidelity test, he just pops up another Bernard. And that's what he's doing. He's just down there making Bernards, and every time he fails a fidelity test, he pops another one in until he gets it right.
I think you brought up the cradle. I think the room with James Delos is the cradle. Because they end up setting it on fire at the end, and that was the thing. The cradle's on fire.
No, but isn't the cradle in charge of all the narratives and stuff?
Oh, no, but I like that, because Elsie did set that room on fire last time. They're like, the cradle's on fire. I think you're absolutely right. I think that's exactly what the cradle is what James Delos was in. And he's like the baby. He's like the newborn baby in a cradle because he hasn't learned yet. He's still going.
Yeah.
Because Dolores makes that reference all the times. They're all just children. They're all just children. So, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think the cradle is what James Delos was in. Another one called, folks. You with that, BBM?
Nope. The creators something to do with narratives and stuff. Because the moment they said that in the episode, I was like, wait a minute, what in the world is the freaking cradle? Even you brought it up, and I looked it up, and it was something to do with the center of all narratives and stuff, like the control room for narratives. I don't think it's freaking the James Delos thing.
And they call that the control room, though. The control room with all the narratives, they call that the control room.
No, I think it's the cradle.
I love it. I love it. Little controversy. BBM actually stepping off that fence and getting to a side, so I'm with you. I like it. I'm going to say stick with it, and time will tell. We will see, because they are absolutely 100% going to answer that question. So, absolutely. Oh, what's up? We got a Game of Theories. Thank everybody for being in the chat. We got Blailton, we got JD, I See Spots, Game of Theories with Marie. I haven't seen the episode, guys. Just dropping in to give. Oh, thanks a lot for stopping in, Marie. We don't want to spoil anything, so yeah, you might want to pop, because we are definitely going deep, deep, deep down the rabbit hole as usual, like we do around here. But thanks for stopping in for sure. When Elsie asked, "Is Ford in control of you now?" Bernard didn't say no. He answered, "Ford is dead." That tells me Ford is still in control of him. What's going on with that situation, BBM?
Just like how I said in episode 1, you cannot trust Bernard. I don't know if Bernard is under the control of himself or what at this situation. I think at certain points it's just Bernard, coolest Bernard. But then at other points is, just Bernard just reliving, the past, whatever. And then it could just simply just be, Bernard that's just snap. He doesn't know exactly what he's doing. Because even after, granted Ford is dead, but is he truly dead? So I won't be surprised at one moment he might just end up becoming Craig Bernard and actually kill LC for good this time. What do you think, Andy?
I'm actually a little worried about my health and stuff, because I actually wrote down the exact same thing that DJ just said. He didn't say no. He said Ford is dead. So I'm questioning my sanity right now that I would willingly, without provocation, write down the same thought that DJ had. But I agree. Like, I think there's a reason he didn't say no. It's like his build. He's subverting the truth. He's lying. Like I said before, he's kind of on the same path as Dolores, where she kind of started with little lies and stuff, and not telling about Arnold talking in her head and that type of thing. So Bernard's doing the same thing, where he's lying to Elsie. He didn't tell her the whole truth about the room, even though you remembered it. So Bernard's definitely hiding some things, and it does seem like Ford's still in control based on him just not saying no, but just that Ford is dead.
And he's still keeping things, because again, like, I know we're drifting off to like later part of the episode, like near the end, where she's like, "Is everything all right?" And he's like, "Yeah, everything's okay. Nothing was okay." He basically just relived, the point where he basically, at one point when he was like under control of Ford, told those droids to kill everyone in the room, and then he literally just killed a human himself, not even just the freaking droid. So it's like, if you really want to be, in the same trusting side with Elsie, you should have straight up and told her that, but he didn't.
So we were saying, so do we just think that's different timelines before, when because like we said, when Elsie first found Bernard, she said she turned off the pain threshold, and then when they're inside the thing, she's like, "This is gonna hurt." So what was the difference there? Is that two different timelines, or why was all of a sudden he gonna be feeling pain, BBM?
I'm not even sure if even when they were even down there, it was even the same timeline, because at one point Bernard was telling her, "Don't go in the room, don't go in the room." And it almost sounded like she wasn't like listening to him at that point in time. So and then he even said, like, is this happening right now?
He's like,
and
"Are
even
you
when
here?"
you can like see that scene, it almost looked like Bernard is really just reliving what's taking place. Because even how Elsie's just like going in and he keeps calling on her, like, "Elsie, like, we shouldn't, the room," and all that stuff, and she's like not responding. It's almost as if she's just like there with the real freaking Bernard. Because obviously she had to been there with the real Bernard, because how else would she be saved? Unless, someone else saved her, but then Bernard still had to be in the room to relive that moment.
Nice.
So what was, I think that it was like, basically like system, like if you're doing a computer and your computer's like telling you, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. And she's looking in his brain, it responding to these certain stimuli that she just shut those down. She was like, cancel your reaction. Make that. You're not reacting to that. You're not reacting to that. You're not reacting to that. And it wasn't like she just turned off his ability to feel pain. It was like she canceled out the ones that were actually happening at that moment. That's the way I saw it, at least.
Oh, because she's like, I turned off your pain receptors so you won't feel the pain, but you're not going to last very long without that cortex fluid. And it's like,
now, I think she says she turned off his responses, your response. So I don't think she said all. I think she was talking about what was happening at that time. That she was stopping how he would react to those things.
yeah, could be. See. So the next scene, when the Men in Black and Lawrence are going down into or was it Los Medas or whatever? They Lawrence says, I'm not, or the Men in Black instantly notice that there's no host around, like we were talking about earlier, the same way that Grace did. So it's like that was a nice little clue that was his daughter. But then kind of right after that, Lawrence says, I'm not the domestic type. By some fluke of nature, I got myself a daughter and a wife. And I don't know why, but that just seemed like another just huge hint to me that Lawrence is Logan. I was like, Lawrence, that is going to happen.
I thought more of like a Ford playing with William. To make William have his redemption, he needs to be able to see himself in these hosts. Like, look at them as if they're alive, because his big thing is they're not alive. They're just things. But he's starting to see himself in certain things, and that's a scenario where he could see himself in Lawrence, and so that it triggers some sort of emotional response, so that he can like form a relationship, or almost like a mirror, like you said, you're a mirror.
I absolutely think you're right. I just think that that's just like a little tip of the nod. I just think that part of it was a little tip of the nod to that Lawrence being Logan, because right after that I know he's definitely doing this for the Men in Black, because right after that, Lawrence, he keeps talking and he's like, they think I hung the moon, but the truth is I'm a son of a bitch. And the kindest thing I ever did was stay away. And that's Ford switching the narrative, basically letting him know that he knows that's the way the Men in Black thinks. You know, he knows he's a son of a bitch, and he thinks the best thing he could have done from his family was staying away and just doing all that evil shit in the park. And Ford's going to flip the script and show him that's not the truth. What do you think about all this, BBM?
You guys have to stop about Logan's mind being uploaded into Lawrence to freaking was it not Juliet? Is it Juliet? It's that's inside of Dolores, whatever. Like, no, just stop it. Just stop. They're their own characters. Just
keep me out of that, BBM. You say you got
that part's just me, but you don't think the rest of that narrative is Ford messing with the Men in Black through Lawrence, the way he's talking like that, kind of mirroring his thing?
Oh, I know you have a daughter. I told you that this time around. Like, even pointing, I was like, okay, so either one, Lawrence is awakened, which really were they hints of that? No, really. But that, or just, it was just freaking Ford putting that in his storyline, saying like, yeah, you remember, or you just know that he has a daughter.
Here's the thing. There's something weird about that makes you realize that this is Ford messing with him. Maybe it might be in a way to trick William into thinking that the hosts are like becoming alive, or Lawrence is becoming alive. But they showed us at the very beginning that William told Teddy about his daughter, not Lawrence. So Lawrence knowing about his daughter, as far as we know, and I don't remember him ever telling anybody else about it except for Teddy, never talking about her, only to Teddy. So that just lets you know that it's Ford messing with the Man in Black, like trying to manipulate the Man in Black, because there's no reason that Lawrence should know about his daughter. So it's not him having old memories.
I like that. Absolutely. I agree with that. after that they switch up, and of course the music in this show is like probably one of the greatest, like literally all the way around every show is like, it's amazing. But when they switch back to James Delos and it's playing Do the Strand, and you actually listen to the words, like there's a new sensation, a fabulous creation, you know, a danceable solution, and like James Delos is dancing around all wacky and shit. I mean, it was, I don't know, the music blows me away every single freaking week in and week out. What do you guys think?
Plus the first one, it was kind of like hints to it, saying like, you know, you have all this money and stuff, but if you mess with me, you're playing with fire. You know, he was basically trying to like cheat death, and he ended up dying. And what happened to his like freaking body? Freaking burned. Well, not his actual body, his like human host body burns. It was like freaking huge foreshadowing.
The switch in that scene was like incredible. Like my girl started talking to me right then, and then all of a sudden she like stopped. She's like, "Oh, sorry," and then remembered it's HBO. But she totally thought that was a commercial break. Like when it chopped that hard right there and completely switched, she thought that was a freaking commercial break right there.
Certainly. I like the music there. I was the same way. At first I was like, I thought it was a commercial, and then I was like, oh wait. No, this is like the show. But yeah, I agree. Like the music's amazing. Like I always say, if you listen to the music, it'll tell you something about what's going to happen in this episode, or something about the overall story. And that's, like I said last week or something, that Seven Nation Army played. So I think there's 7 actual parks. So yeah, it was great. You're right. Foreshadowing everything, or what was going to happen. Music freaking great.
Absolutely. And I don't know if it's like just because I'm a DJ again, like if I'm just going way too deep into it, but I mean, it was like, I noticed like the details all the way down to like when William was saying like, we're just doing this to establish a baseline. Like literally right when he says baseline, they flash back to the record player. It's like, did you notice that shit? I was like, you gotta be kidding me. It was like, and I'm telling you, I'm not just dreaming this shit up, BBM. Go back and watch it. The very first opening scene, them lines, you're going to be like, holy shit, that is a maze. There's big gaps in it. And back in this part, when he's talking about it, when he says baseline, I shit you not, it pans instantly to the record player. It's like, I'm not just dreaming this shit up. They are doing this. Like, that's how meticulous to detail these people are. It's amazing.
Then when I, take a shower and look at my shampoo and I see, the scan symbol, whatever, and it looks like a maze. Am I a host, DJ? Am I a host?
Oh, he's just not gonna buy it. Not gonna buy it.
I think I agree with DJ. Like they put these hints in there for a reason, like just to let you know. I didn't see the maze in the disc or the record, but I'm sure it was there. Like if I go back and watch it, and it's there for a reason. It's just a little hint. Just like those mazes were everywhere last season. So I think it's there.
Absolutely. I'm not going to steer you wrong. I'm telling you, if I'm saying like it is there, go back and watch it. You'd be like, holy shit. It's a second, but you're like, holy shit. Like you have to pay attention, but the shit is there. I love all the little callback lines, just like when Delos looks up, he's like, I'm not in California anymore, am I? And then William just breaks out the old line, if you can't tell, does it really matter? They are meticulous with the details. Oh, look at BBM shaking his head. What are you thinking?
Oh, I knew for sure he wasn't in freaking, California or whatever? Like, dude was in freaking, the park in Westworld, obviously.
When they incinerated everything, why did they incinerate the whole room and not just him? I mean, it's because he was just rubbing one out all over shit and they just wanted to burn that shit and be done and get new shit? Or, why did they have to incinerate the whole room? Why not just get him? What was up with that? BBM just fell out.
That's out to, the point Andy was talking about. It could be, a virus or something, it's burn everything, because that would be the situation, right? They can just simply turn him off and then just bring up a new one, but they really had to burn his actual body
and everything in it. I didn't even think about the virus thing. Maybe there's something to that. I don't know. I thought that was weird too. I'm like, why the hell would they burn the whole room? And then they got to set it up exactly the same. Like, I thought maybe they were gonna change something, but nope. They
Yes, incinerated the whole place.
and set it up exactly the same. I'm like, well, shit. What's the point of that? You know, like, I didn't get it. And that, what a shitty way. Like, he must really hate his father-in-law to burn him like that every time. I don't know. But did you notice, like, each time he went in there, the difference between how William acted? Like, the second time in there, like, he was really smug
and he had gray in his hair too. That's what I was like, whoa, he's getting older. And then you like start tying shit in. You're like, oh, wait a minute.
I just meant like his attitude towards James. Like, at first it seemed like he really was hoping this would work out, but by the second time he's in there, you can tell like he's like, like you're never gonna live forever type thing. Like,
right, but I don't think that was the second time. I think that was more like the 16th time. And anytime you're reliving the same loop as they are, I mean, as a human, your mind's going to start figuring shit out. And yeah, by the end of it, and the 35th time you went in there, or the 149th time you went in there, it's like you've done this so many times, like your mind's figured out this isn't right. This isn't the right way to go.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you could see the change in him. We don't know which time it was. It was just later. But that's what I mean. Like, you could see the difference in his attitude the second time they did it. And, yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Just, like, the acting was pretty great. Like, the subtle change in how he was. You could tell he was more smug, and you knew instantly that this has happened multiple times before they even said it, based on how he behaved. Like, it wasn't like he was hopeful that this was going to work. It was like he knew it wasn't going to work, and he was smug about it and kind of disrespectful in ways, just like how he presented himself. So thought it was a great way of letting the watcher know that this has been going on a few times before they actually told you how many times that had been going on.
Unless you were like me, the moment where William takes out that piece of paper and handed it over, you knew it was more than once.
Yep.
Like Iron Throne says up there, all hosts are confirmed. We are all hosts confirmed. What's up, Ian? Thanks for stopping in. Red, good to see you here. What do you guys think? Do you think that's real? Like, is that the real boom juice? Is that the real nitro that they have pouring in through all these things? Like, they said when the Man in Black tried doing that stuff earlier, and he just had it in cigar, and they wanted to do a pyrotechnic, they had to call it in and get it confirmed. But there's no pyrotechnics to call in. Like, everything's in chaos right now. Is that real nitroglycerin that's blowing up? And I mean, they really just have that shit rolling through the park with real people? Like, what is that real? What do you think, BBM?
I am so confused when you're talking about this pyro.
The nitroglycerin that keeps blowing up. They found some nitroglycerin. He makes the bartender hold it on his hand, and then he shoots it, and it blows up his hand. Oh boy makes him drink it, and then he lets Hector shoot him, and it blows him up. Like, so they really I mean, is that real nitro? What's going on with that?
I think it's real.
So what about you, Andy? Do you think that's real, or is like Ford or somebody behind the scenes just making it look like that still?
No, I think it's something that really can be exploded like nitro, but just like the guns, like there's a way to control it. But I think what happened is when everything went down, Ford set it up for his new narrative or whatever, for everything to go into chaos. It just set everything on full approval. Like, now that's why hosts can kill people. That's why the bullets kill people. Basically, everything is approved now, and all safety measures have been taken away. So things would react like they're supposed to react.
Okay, I like that.
That's at least my thought process on it.
Another nod to the Grace relationship. She's the only one brave enough and smart enough to understand the host and escape. That was pretty cool. When Stubbs says, you know, you visited so many times, you understand. So what were you thinking about that, Andy? That you think they've met before and that maybe they had a relationship in the past?
Yeah, it just seemed like how they talked, they knew each other. And like you were saying, that you didn't think so because of how he said you've been here so many times, you understand the language? It sounded, how he said that more sounded like a friendly criticism, like a friendly jab you would make at somebody rather than like, you know, someone you just met, like, holy shit, you come here that much?
I don't know. Maybe if they weren't in like a life or death situation, they still don't know if these Indians are going to kill them or not. So, I mean, this is like I think this is kind of being like blunt. Like, you've been here, like, I don't, you know what I mean? More than friend. Like, I think he's scared and he's just speaking raw to her. But I mean, yeah, you could definitely be right for sure.
Well, he's not scared. She is. He's like, he realizes, remember, he's the one that tried to convince her. They're not trying to hurt us. They're only hurting hosts. They're keeping us safe. So he isn't like afraid for his life at that moment like she is. So to me, it just seemed like a friendly jab, or like not even like a jab, just like, man, you come here too much, like you would say to your friend. So and just how they talked the rest of the time, it seemed they were pretty chummy as well. So
yeah. Red Wallace says that's why he didn't understand the Grace shot her one night stand with the bullet. She had penetrated him if all the safeties were off with the guns. How come? Yeah, that's a good point. How come her gun didn't penetrate? And again, that could be, I was saying that's because he's a host and he's one of the new Fandango hosts that Ford has out there that can fool all the technology. And that's why Grace was able to pass that thing, because I still say Grace is a host, and that's why she passed that DNA thing when they hit her neck. So yeah, I think that's why. But yeah, that's a good point. Still, being a host or not, why
Charlotte, not Grace?
Yeah, Charlotte, my fault, exactly. But yeah, that is a good point. I mean, whether it is or not, why didn't that gun kill him?
Well, maybe it hadn't been opened up at that time yet. Maybe like they just happened, just like things were operating as normal inside Rajworld until they got to the outside part of the park. So maybe whatever happened that triggered that happened in that time frame that they were traveling.
Or Ford just set it up that way because, in my mind, Ford's still 100% in control of this narrative. This is all the game that he was working on all last season. He drew out every one of these details, and like he said, every blade of grass, they're gods in here. So I think he may have just drew it up that way. What do you think about that, BBM?
I don't even know the original question. It's like you guys went one way.
He's like, why didn't that gun kill the host when Grace shot that host? Whether he's a host or human, why didn't that gun kill him?
Oh, they didn't kill him?
No, it just knocked him down, and then they had wild, passionate sex. It was awesome.
Grace now.
Remember Grace in Rajworld? She's like, I want to test you, and she shot that thing to make sure it wasn't a host, and then he lives, so you think he's human, and then they had sex. I think he was still a host, but it was just set up like that.
Foil. He's human.
He's human, so you're just going with he's human. But the thing is the guns were killing humans and hosts.
It was like episode 3 that one host was pretty much just killing, guests, not simply this host. That's what I don't think.
Well, Red was asking, why did that gun, I mean, whether it's a host or human, why didn't that gun kill it? I mean, all the guns are set to actually kill humans at this point. So why didn't that gun, I mean, host or human, whether, I'm right, you're right, it's a host or human, why didn't that gun kill it when she shot him? Because she pretty much shot him right in the heart.
But is every single, host, that's killing humans, equipped with that weaponry? Because even, we can call it Dolores, didn't she have to go get human guns to even give the Confederates and stuff? But they didn't even use those weapons.
So yeah, so you're saying she still had a part gun and that was something else? Could be.
Here you go. Here's the
Oh, Andy had to break it down for me. My man. Snafu. Tell him about it.
So you got your entrance, you travel through the maze here, you go there, they get there, and boom, you're through the maze. So yeah, it's legitimate. Maybe there's even something to the fact that there's 2 entrances to the maze. maze, but only one way through. How about that for some tinfoil?
Got me there, got me there.
Oh,
Unless those are just scratches because he's been playing that mute record for so long.
Oh, I tell you, I don't miss a beat, man. I'm telling you, this show has me ruined. I am looking at every detail. It's just insane. Absolutely insane. And Cheddar says you only live as long as the last person who remembers you. And then true to their name, Ghost Nation is ghost. They are out. So does this prove that the natives truly were just safeguards for the humans, or is there something bigger or farther to that? Is there more something intense to the Ghost Nation? More in depth. What do you think about that, Andy?
I think they may. Well, I think Ford set it up for them to be that way, since you can't freeze off motor functions. Even before any of the other hosts that we know about, and you couldn't do it to them. So I think Ford set this up as like, maybe as a game, like if you made it all the way to the Ghost Nation, then you were saved. And so he gave the humans an opportunity, a chance to escape. So if you made it that far, you could live, and that was their purpose, is to get those people out. So
doesn't it just prove that this is really all Ford's narrative? I mean, the people that are in there are like people that were just visiting a park. He seems like, that's not board members. So it's like he's keeping them alive. And Stubbs, if you remember, why was Stubbs there in the first place? He all of a sudden got a call transponder from Elsie that was supposed to be Elsie's that was missing. So he went out in the park to go to that exact spot, and he called back, and he's like, I'm here, but I don't see her. And then all of a sudden, Ghost Nation attacked him and captured him. So basically, doesn't that just prove that Ford wanted him there because he's their like basic head security? So Ford needed to get him there and captured to get him out of the picture to make all this narrative go down?
Yeah, I think there's absolutely a good reason for him to be there, and it's so eventually they could ship him and Elsie. So they needed him to survive.
Guys, they needed him there so that when they gathered all the surviving guests, they know, like, okay, he can basically help them at least get off the island or get to an even secure place. Because this Ghost Nation just, like, got them all there, and then they just, like you said, they went ghost. So they basically just brought them all there just for freaking, whatchamacallit, Stubbs. Because even Stubbs talked about, the first respondents are coming, and he would possibly know, like, where would they touch down at.
So those are humans are all brought there to Stubbs, so Stubbs can get them all to safety, correct?
That would tell us that Ford is still working his game, because he's talking about you're not truly dead unless like to last person. So he's still talking about Ford, so he's still alive apparently.
Yep. And here's the thing: just because Ford is still controlling things does not mean that like Dolores isn't conscious and that she's still going on like on the rails narrative. We see how good he is at predicting the Man in Black's actions. So it's still possible that he is predicting Dolores's actions. He's not actually controlling her, but he knew how she was going to react, and he's basing everything around this. And maybe, the multiple players in the game, he's giving her the opportunity to participate and find the door. So I just want to point that out. Just because he's still controlling most everything doesn't mean that Dolores or maybe even Maeve are not conscious or making their own decisions and not on the rails.
Like Ford again could be controlling everything, but it could be a 1 second or so where Dolores can just automatically start doing her own things. I highly doubt like Dolores is supposed to again like find the value of the beyond, but because of Abernathy just coming into her path, she's now deciding to actually go look for him, which is not a part. I'm guessing it's not a part of Ford's goal. Just like with Maeve, I'm guessing Maeve is supposed to lead the park, but she decided to go look for her daughter. And even with the Man in Black, it looks like he's not supposed to be doing what Ford wanted him to do or so. So who knows?
I don't think Ford ever wanted anybody to leave the park. I think this is all Ford's doing, and this is his way to keep them here, just like Teddy was Dolores' way of keeping her there. He doesn't want any of this information getting out. He never has.
Because like Maeve could just be his wild card in case things, go haywire. Because she is like pretty much powerful. Like kind of like it's like Ford, and then there's freaking Maeve with her freaking tablet. So she's pretty much like the second most powerful person there in a sense.
But she's like a human, in that she handicaps herself. Like, if you think about society as like, think about equality and stuff with women or whatever, like feminism. Men had like all the power, and if they didn't want to, they didn't have to let women involved in that. But like in fairness, they did, right? So they handicapped themselves by bringing in more competition. And that's like a human trait to want to, seeing other people as people and allowing them to have the same opportunities, right? So Maeve is doing that same thing in that she could control the other hosts, but she chooses not to because she wants them to truly be free and not just be free because she's telling them to be free. Like, she's the opposite of Dolores in that way. I don't know if my analogy made sense, but in my head it did.
In my head it did.
Yeah, a typical sexist, analogy from Andy.
Well, back to the Man in Black. Ford says this game starts, young Ford says this game starts where you end and ends where you begin. So the true game is the Man in Black on a good guy arc is what I'm getting at. Because the true game starts when he stops being a bad guy here in Lawrence's town and ends when he starts being a good guy. So when he brings that arc back and maybe gets back with his daughter, that's when the game will end because he's back to being a decent guy. And maybe it's like you said earlier, you have to be a decent guy before you're able to be merged with a host for it to work properly. And if you're looking forward, you're looking in the wrong direction. So he's got to go back and fix something, obviously, right?
Jamie Lannister arc is what they're going to be doing with the Man in Black this season, in my opinion. It looks like that's how they're going to be going. Like, because the way how season 1 started out, we saw him pretty much as a bad guy. But in reality, he's kind of decent. And look like they're building up upon that.
Yeah, I believe that too. And I think that like he needs to, it ends where he began and stuff. With Ford manipulating him, like I brought this up before the stream, but I also said it with Lawrence, like where Ford is basically trying to show the Man in Black, like he's supposed to see himself in these hosts, just like with his daughter, with Lawrence's daughter, and his family thinks he's a good person, but really he's a shit person. He's having the Man in Black see himself in host and giving him the option to choose which one he wants to be, because he also has the Craddock guy in whatever that town's called behaving just like the Man in Black did when we last saw him in that town. I mean, when he goes into the town, the Man in Black's even setting up to do the same thing. He puts his hand cannon barrel on his gun and everything. But Craddock's already doing his job, like treating the people like shit. We even see like where he's dancing with Lawrence's wife, just like the Man in Black did when he was torturing them. And
so you're saying this is all just a lesson to teach him, to basically show him what an asshole he was being?
Yeah, and it's like bringing it. It's giving him the option, like showing him who he really is. Like you can see yourself in Lawrence, where Lawrence thinks he's a bad guy, but he was really doing the right thing because he's a bad guy by staying away from his family. And he's really not a bad guy. He cares about his family. And the Man in Black can see that in himself. But also, Ford shows him who he was to these people. Forge giving the Man in Black, letting them see that these the hosts have some level of humanity, and then watching somebody that's not him torment the hosts in a way that he would, and basically showing his sins before him and giving him the option to fix it. He gets to do something about it. He can change himself, and ultimately, I think it's bringing it back to where he began as a good guy, so that he can eventually have the relationship with Dolores in the end and bring her back to to do the same thing, where he can bring her back to being a good person, and she doesn't have to have the Wyattness in her. Even though it's there, it doesn't have to be dominant. So the Man in Black's going to ultimately lead her to that end game shit for me.
Dolores is a robot. She's not even alive. How is that going to happen?
Well, she is to me. Like, I think she is. And like I said, I think that William, or that control thing that Bernard stole, I think that is ultimately for the Man in Black, for William, once he finishes his redemption arc.
I actually like that. That'd be sick, because, yeah, I think he's going into Teddy. But, yeah, that's a whole different thing. I love that, though. That whole scene, in Los, God, I can't even think of it now. But that whole scene was just, in Lawrence's town, was amazing. That was by far my favorite in the entire, the whole episode was dope, but that was the best for me in this entire episode. When he was breaking it down, he's like, you didn't even realize death was sitting across from you this whole time. Like, amazing. What was your favorite episode, or favorite scene in this episode?
I want to say, well, since you said that scene, and so I can't use that, and since I'm such a egotist, I guess I'm gonna go with the very last scene, the "Hi, Dad," where that validates me in my prediction. So I'll choose that just out of pure self-centeredness.
There you go. What about you, BBM? What was your favorite scene in this episode?
Did you say a favorite scene, DJ? Because I was like in the middle of something when I.
Oh yeah, mine was by far the whole Man in Black scene when he was in Lawrence's town and he ended up seeing, remembering like his wife's death, and then looking at that guy going, "You think you're a bad motherfucker? Listen, you didn't even realize I'm death sitting right across the table from you this whole time." Like, and then just got down. That was just the act, not even the action when he started shooting, but everything up until that, when he was just talking, like he's like, hey, props to Anthony Hopkins, but we don't need him because I got this. And he just put that whole acting career right there and said, let's get some. Like, that was just a badass scene to me.
For me, it's a little bit too hard. It's like, I want to say it's the LC returning is my favorite scene. But then, again, you brought up a good scene with, Man in Black, saying his line about freaking death, to James Delos' scene. Possibly like my favorite of the James Delos scene, besides the dancing, was like the one where he's talking to the Man in Black, and then when the Man in Black is telling him, like, dude, your wife is dead, your freaking son Bogan is dead from an overdose, even like freaking your daughter is dead, and he's just freaking out. Like, this whole time he's trying to figure out to like conquer death, but freaking he missed out on life.
But he didn't really have a choice, though. I mean, he was dying, so. And again, just the karma factor of that is amazing.
Hell yeah. There's a couple of cool things about, like, each of you guys' scene. Shit, I already forgot the one about BBM's scene. But your scene, damn it, I should have started with that one. But the way the hand cannon sounded was amazing. You heard all the shots going off, and then boom! But wasn't it like great? Like, you get to see some redemption in the Man in Black, in that not only does he go around and kill all the hosts that were tormenting these people, because that's not something too out of character for the Man in Black. Like, their host, he's willing to help certain people out, and like he'll do it. But the fact that he let Lawrence kill that last dude, that's like a big step for him. Like he's
The
doing
first
some,
step.
yeah, like he says that Lawrence isn't his friend, but in reality, he constantly goes back to him when he's in the park, and he lets him do that. He sets it up so that William can look like a hero to his family, right? Like he did the final act. So he, he does own the moon to them now. Like he killed the main guy. So he's given him some level of humanity.
Absolutely. That was a big first step back. Antron says it was all Teddy's fault. If he killed them as Dolores instructed, then the trouble would have been avoided. Disagree.
Yeah. Doesn't that tell you that like Ford still has clear control over Teddy? Where basically that person was sent there to be the Man in Black so that the Man in Black could see himself and change his ways. So maybe it's Ford telling Teddy to let them go so they can get there, so that this encounter happens, because the Man in Black needs that to grow.
No, because I want that just to be the seeds of Teddy defying Dolores. If so, then in reality, he never defied Dolores this whole time. That's why I say no. I think that was freaking what you call it, Teddy's own free will that he decided not to shoot those men. And then since they're just on the way, to freaking Lawrence's town, freaking no, I can't even like pull that off. I agree.
Well, Teddy.
E for effort.
Teddy not killing them isn't really him defying Dolores in a conscious way. It's him falling back on his character. Like he's still in a narrative. Like he's loyal to Dolores because of his narrative, but he doesn't kill he's not just going to murder people because that's part of his character. He's the good guy. He's the hero. Well, the tragic hero, I guess. Like he fails constantly, but it's just him falling back to his narrative, showing that he's not even close to being awake in my eyes.
When the Man in Black was fighting his way out, he looked like he got shot in his neck, and then again he was like holding it later, and then after that we don't see anything. Like, did he get shot in his neck, or was that just what was that? A ricochet? Was that again two different timeline things happening? Like, why is he shot in his neck and hurt, and then all of a sudden not?
I saw the same thing. I was like, what the hell? Because he was turned around, and I almost thought like maybe they weren't real bullets. He was standing in the doorway, and there was a guy 20 feet away from him and missed. Like that. Yeah. That can't be. He didn't aim for his head, which hosts our program not to aim for heads, and he hit him in the neck. It didn't hurt him. Maybe the Man in Black still is. He still can't be killed by bullets. I don't know. Maybe the hosts are supposed to keep him alive. Maybe it's all set up for his benefit.
That's still on Ford's narrative, and he still can't really die in there. It absolutely could be, but yeah, I just thought that was weird. Do you remember that BBM or anything about that scene?
Absolutely not.
He said absolutely not. I gotta go back.
I gotta rewatch it. I only watch this episode twice. Normally I watch at least 3 to 5 times and then hear other people's reviews and stuff. But when they don't mention it, I'm just like, okay, I'm guessing during my rewatch I don't pay a focus to it.
Well, thank God we're here for you. We'll go ahead and hit you to all the shit you're missing. We'll bring it in for you. Oh, the Man in Black. That was pretty cool when he came in and James Delos turns around finally. He's like, who the fuck are you? It was like, I just love the way they tied that in and aged him and brought him in. And did you guys notice how James Delos' hands like shook like Bernard's did? Like, is that kind of showing that Bernard is one of these new Fandango hosts because it's shaking basically the same way Delos is?
Yeah, I was thinking something similar to that. Like, he's having the same kind of glitches as Bernard is, and I thought that was weird. Also, there's like, I remember the one thing I wanted to say about BBMs. Did you notice like that for James Delos, he started having glitches and stuff when he felt like emotional pain. Like it exacerbated like his already like failing cognitive ability. Whenever once they say, hey, your wife's dead, he started like, that's when he really started glitching out with his words. And when he finds out Juliet's dead, like the same shit happens. And I can't tell if that's like that shit needs to happen in order for him to be able to live as a host, or if like it just shows the complete opposite between humans and hosts, because that pain is what the hosts need to become alive, and it's actually like destroying James Delos, like the pain.
I disagree with you, because before, like during one of their conversations, he was talking about like a certain amount of days you're perfectly fine, but then suddenly you begin to break down. I think it's like what, 35 days or something like that, and then they begin to break down. It's like certain ends where you see him like shaking with the milk, and then before he even like asks those questions, even like learn before like his like freaking wife die, like you see even his leg is even like shaking. So it's like it's just settle, and then it begins to wrap.
Well, when William looks at his leg, that's after he tells him about his wife being dead. But what I mean is like they're having a normal conversation.
It also could be triggered during conversation as well, because it looks like he's just pretty much there by himself the whole time with no interaction with anyone. It kind of brings up during like speech, maybe. I don't know.
It could be, but we saw as he would get angry, like, or excited or anything like that, that's when he started having the speech problem. It would be weird that he breaks down in that way every time. Like William has perfect timing that he goes in there right as he's like speech is going to break down right after their conversation. Seemed like he got worked up, and that's when like his system was failing. Yes, he was already like at his cognitive plateau. That's what they called it. But once he started feeling emotion, it like really, it like triggered like the failures.
For me, it was more of, and it's based on like the point your DJ brought up earlier, when he looks into like the mirror and he sees like his mind is like, wait a minute, something's wrong. I think that's like the catalyst to all of it. And then it begins to like, the shaking of either his leg and then his hand. And then finally it's that conversation with emotions. I think it's like all of it put together, not just simply the emotions part.
Those are some great points. I can't wait till they show us about that. I mean, is it that he just knew that's about the time? Like, obviously, they're watching everything this guy does 24/7. So, can they just tell that he's starting to degrade, and that's when William goes in, like, yeah, it's time to terminate you. So here I am. Or is it something about, like Andy's saying, when he goes in and something that he says that actually sets him off? And once he, has something that actually ties him back to the real world, that's when he starts losing it. Because, we always see every time right before William comes in, he goes in and starts looking in the mirror, and he starts getting like this really weird look, like, what the fuck? And then they're like, sir, we have a visitor for you. So it's like, is that like the click that makes it, once he starts seeing himself, is that like the catalyst?
At first, I thought that when he looks at the mirror and he like notices something, I was like, okay, it's pretty much a two-way mirror. And does he like know it's a two-way mirror, or they're trying to hint like, okay, once he actually his mind like realizes, wait a minute, I'm actually dead, this thing begins to trigger for him. And then just so happens that the next like a few seconds later, like freaking William comes to visit him.
I think he's already degrading, right? It's going to happen. But that emotional trigger actually exacerbates it and like pushes him over the edge. That's my point. Like, yeah, I know he's already degrading and he's failing at that point, but like he's having a conversation without any glitches. But as soon as he finds out like his wife died, that's when he starts to like vocally glitch, like have those glitches where we can see you. Like we already got the shaking the hands, but he actually can't. It's like messing up with his processing in his speech. And then the more negative things happen, the more he like totally glitches out. Like when William tells him, no, you can't leave here. Like he gets frustrated and then he can't even say air. Like
yeah, and that was the first one. I mean, it had nothing to do with family. It was like just basically saying he wasn't ready to leave yet. It made him glitch out and freak out. And that's when he was like 7 days.
In the I think it was like the second conversation. Yeah, he mentions like he wants to leave so he can, you know, go on boats and fuck his wife. But then, you know, William was like, your wife is dead. Then he's like, wait, what? So it could be like emotions. Even then, like, I don't want to compare this to like freaking Abernathy, but when Abernathy like saw the photo, that's when he began to like trigger. So I'm guessing it has to do with some moment that's like trigger. Then again, Abernathy is just a regular host.
Don't get DJ in on this. We're gonna be like, see, that's exactly what it is. He sees his daughter, knows that she's dead, and then starts emotional trigger.
Absolutely. Red Wallace is with me too. Teddy has always been the model for William because that's where William's going to be uploaded is into Teddy. I'm there too, Red. Red says, here's some tinfoil in the end. William's consciousness will be put into Teddy and Dolores and William will be together. Again, Dolores said the end will be about those two. And I absolutely agree. Because
I think
Dolores
so too.
is Juliet, so absolutely. Teddy escaped from the Harlequin World Park.
The more I deny that they upload themselves into Teddy and freaking Dolores, the more I'm like kind of believing it, but then I'm like, no.
I think that happens in the end. I think you're right. Like I said earlier, there has to be where the host that you're going to integrate to has to find its own reality, reconcile with its own reality before someone else's consciousness can go into it, because the host needs to have already existed, and it just needs to be prepped. It's all like before someone's consciousness goes in. You can't have one designatedly built to house someone's consciousness. And I think this is what Ford is aware of. That's what he becomes aware of when he steals the information from Delos. And he's right. I think you said it was Red. Where Teddy is just a model of who William used to be. And if it ends where it began, that's him going into Teddy. He's becoming who he was before all this happened, where it began, where everything began. He can be that person again. But he has to match. I think you have to match like frames of mind. Or this just popped in my head. I don't know if I truly believe it yet because I haven't had time to think about it. But maybe that's why it has to be that way. Like you can't have opposing personalities put together. But if William can get back onto his white hat arc, or like he have a redemption and sees the same, he becomes a good guy again. Then
so
he
the
can
host can switch up, but the humans can't? Because, I mean, Peter Abernathy was like a human-eating freaking, killer. And then all of a sudden he's, a nice dad on the prairie. So, I mean, obviously the host can switch, but the humans can't.
Well, there was a problem with that too. But yeah, the host can switch personalities, but they have to reconcile their reality. It's not, so it has to be a host that has realized they're a host and come to terms with reality, I believe. And then whatever their personality is, that has to match or mirror whoever's consciousness goes into it. They have to have personalities that can join, or at least maybe ideals or something like that, so that they can integrate together successfully.
The robots don't have ideals. Robots just have whatever you put into them.
That's why they have to reconcile their reality first. Like they are what they are, but once they realize they're a host, and start to reflect on their programmed and reconcile this reality and still live your life. Know that you have these pre-programmed things and they kind of make you what you are, but you can still do something with that. You can still have your own thoughts, and yes, it's somewhat determined by what you already programmed, but you can move from there. That's just like us people. We are pre-programmed with certain abilities or temperaments and things that have happened in our past. We have these personalities built into us, but you can change it, but it's still programming. We can reflect on what's happened to us in the past and know that that's why we behave now. But we could, given effort, we can fight that. We can fight our programming if we know that we are programmed to be that way. We can,
because we're human and they're hosts. Now I'm back with Ion. It is all Teddy's fault. If we'd have just killed him, we wouldn't have had to worry about all this. And then the black man, or the man in the black hat, or man in black, would have still been evil and still on the bad redemption. But no, you're right. Absolutely. I'm just messing around. Of course, it's like you give a lot of credence to the host actually being alive and awake, and I put it more into this is just all Ford's narrative, and that's why Teddy let those guys go in the first place, because he knew they were going to have to come to Lawrence's town and mess with the man in black to get him to start walking the path towards the white hat again. What do you think about all this madness, BBM?
Blame Teddy. We blame Star-Lord, we got to blame Teddy.
Blame Teddy.
Well, I think, like, if you have Dolores there, like, to guide, she's the Judas steer, right? From last season, we see what happens to hosts when they reach the end of their loop and they don't get reset. There's nothing else to do. They can keep going, but they can also be guided, and that's what Dolores is doing. People that have reached the edge of their loop or the end of their narrative, right? Dolores is guiding her chosen ones into going further where she has gone. Like, I think she's more alive. She's a lot like humans, where we have our pre-programming, but we can reflect on that and just knowing that we do something because of a certain reason. Just having that knowledge and being able to reflect on why we do something can lead us to change that. We can go against what we're programmed to do by our own awareness of our thought processes and our inner voice. And hosts can do the same. Just because they're programmed to do something, it doesn't mean they can't go against that. And that's what Dolores did, and that's what she's trying to guide other people.
But isn't that the big question? I don't know if they can go against that. I think it's all Ford's program. Everything they do that they're acting like they're going against, Ford programmed them to do the reverse.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's definitely it's not Ford's program, but I'm saying that they could do that. It's not impossible for them to not do it. Yeah, but you're saying they can't, but because they're programmed, and I'm telling you, you are programmed, but you can reflect on why you do something.
Because I'm human, though, and they're robots.
But your brain operates the same as a computer. Like, it's just it's just like electrical signals firing to running certain programs. Like, that's what's going on in your head. But your ability to reflect on yourself is what gives you the illusion of free will, I guess. Like, the option to change your mind, to do certain things given different decisions. You can make a decision, and they can make decisions too, as long as they can reflect on their programming. If they know they're programmed and they can hear their programming as a voice in their head, that gives them the option. That's why she said, I may. Now it says, I may.
But they need the program. Somebody has to program that into them in the first place. Whereas a human, you're going to get up, you're going to move, you're going to go look for food because you're human and you need to eat. Whereas a robot, if they don't ever get programmed, they will sit there and rot forever because they're just mechanical parts. They're a robot.
instinct. That's a program that's been programmed over centuries. Just
no, that's life. Nobody programmed that except for maybe God. But I mean, that's just part of it.
It's a program, though. You are programmed. It's instinct. Instinct is a program that's running in you on survive to have you survive. You were born.
For those of you who watched this last year, this is the exact same argument we had last year. For those of you who remember from last year, this is the same exact argument we had last year.
Exactly. So, instinct.
That's so awesome. That's what makes it great, though.
You can go against it. You just like. Yeah, you can go against your instinct. You can go against your programming. And so can they.
James Delos says, I'm all the way down now. I can see all the way to the bottom. Who you like to see? Or, he says, would you like to see what I see? What does he see?
I have no idea. Like,
the way how sorry, Andy.
No, go ahead.
BBM, tell us, what the hell does he see? I need to hear from you because I think this might be more your category right here.
I really have to like freaking write this thing down and then I'd be like, okay, who in the world? I'm guessing is like the two fathers. Well, if you're looking at it like literally in the eyes of like Papa Delos, it's like he's like a father and then freaking young William is a father. But since he realized that he's dead, it's all a lie, that I'm not like really alive and stuff, and this whole experiment's not working. There's only one true father, and that's freaking William. And apparently he's like the devil at this point because he kind of like took away his Logan and he took away his daughter. So that's how I kind of like saw that whole speech there. That or they're alluding to some other thing that I don't even know, because like, I don't know, maybe I'm just reading it too literal of the two fathers, because like the only current father we kind of see right now is, the man in black who has a daughter, and like who else is this other person? Could be hinting to like freaking, Arnold is going to be in 4 because he was once a father, but I don't know. It's a bit pushing it though.
That takes it a lot deeper than I was. I love that. I was just thinking like when he was all the way at the bottom, and when he looked up, that was pretty much him on an operating table, and him looking up was whoever was operating on him and giving him this life. And basically that was just the devil reflecting back on him, because he's not really alive, and he realizes that every time he goes past a mirror. But yours is way deeper. I love that. What do you think about all that, Andy?
So that's the part I didn't get to rewatch, but I know in that scene he says something about like we're told there's a God and a devil, but it's really just the same person, and you're looking at the reflection. You're standing above like water and looking at a reflection. I think that's reference to Arnold and Ford, like that, or it's like a hint towards that. We think of one as like a God figure and one as a devil, but in reality, it's just the devil. And it kind of makes me wonder, like, if Arnold ever existed in the first place, almost in a weird way.
He had to have existed though, or he just sent, or Ford, even though he created everything, he just created like the first host, and it's like, I want to make more of you, and then that was how it all began. But I kind of see how you're looking at it, because it could be, the two fathers, being Ford and Arnold, because they started everything here. So both of them could be the father, but one of them is the devil, and it's freaking Ford. Or for all we know, it's all could have been freaking Arnold. Like Arnold could have been like Littlefinger, like in this whole situation. Like maybe, it was like Ford and him discovered the whole Delos, trying to like come back to life situation. Ford just like disannounced and is like, you know what, you're not going to be, successful in it. But maybe Arnold's like, you know what, maybe they do have something here. And he tested it out, and he needed a host to kill him. So he starts working with Dolores, who eventually, begins to awaken and able to freaking kill him. And then he just basically been on back burner, just waiting for a moment for him to like come back, and this is it.
Or it could even be like that Arnold wanted to do immortality first. Like he saw the potential and he wanted that immortality. And it could be that Ford was the one trying to stop him. And why Ford came around in the end to Arnold's position was because Ford's reaching the end of his life, and you know, he can finally understand Arnold's position in wanting immortality, and that's why he brings back like all like Arnold's shit. Like it's just a couple tinfoil things, but it's possible that we think of Arnold as this good guy, but you know, they both could have been just evil dudes.
Exactly. Like a lot of shows I'm watching, from either from Game of Thrones to 100 Supernatural, it always starts off with this one character where we just assume that they're good, but this whole time they either become evil or they've been evil this whole time, just trolling us all. What you think, DJ? You're just gritting there.
You know me, my mind instantly starts. I'm like, so is this just all a complete twist from the beginning? Because we know Ford is like this mad, like evil genius, basically. So basically, we're made to believe that, I mean, we know that the park was faltering. They needed money to go. Arnold didn't want to bring in the money man, according to Ford. He thought, you know, that's when they would lose it. But Ford wanted the park to open, and Ford had bigger, major plans. And we're made to believe that this Argos corporation went out and found Delos, but I think it was all Ford. Like Ford went after these people specifically because they were a biotechnology company. So it's like they were dibble-dabbling in a bunch of stuff, but Ford went out and found this company specifically to get to the end game that they're out now, because this is where he wanted to go, and it's all, you know, folds back into the Chopin and Beethoven wanting to live off in your music or live off in your art. He knew back then, I can live forever. You know, he's like, if we get started now, by the time I'm an old man, I can find a way to live for eternity. So I mean, I think he might have had this planned out from way back, which would be just insane. Do you believe, BBM, do you believe Bernard is actively making his own choices? Like, is he awoke? Is he making his own choices? He told Elsie he was, and he said, and she said, no more lies, don't try to hurt me again. So is Bernard making his own choices, and will he end up hurting, lying, killing Elsie?
As of this moment, I think he is awakened, but he's still somehow, some way, still under the control of Forbes. I can see in a situation where something is going to trigger him, someone's going to say a command, or he's going to just start like bugging out, and he's going to start killing people. And one of those people could be Elsie. I don't want Elsie to die. It's like, damn it, you fooled us for making us think that, you know, she was dead the first season, then we see her alive the second season. Like the moment she went through that door, I was like, come on now, you're gonna have another freaking door situation here where, you know, he goes in with Teresa and Teresa ends up dying, so now he goes in another door with Elsie and now she's gonna die. Like, come on. The whole situation, it's like, have you not seen a horror movie? It was like lights flickering, all red. You hear the record player going, you're playing with me, like repeating and repeating. I'm like, someone's gonna die here. Like, good thing no one did. But if not, yeah, Elsie could have died this episode. I would have been pissed off at Bernard.
I would have been pissed off at the creators for fucking pulling a Walking Dead. I would have lost my mind if they brought back Elsie just to be killed like right after that. And I would have totally been on here ripping Westworld for pulling a Glenn, like doing the Glenn thing. Where you
What's a Glenn thing?
Well,
he thought that he died and got ripped to shreds by walkers, but in reality, he was just underneath a human who was being ripped to shreds by walkers.
Oh, this is a Walking Dead thing.
Yeah, he went on the dumpster.
And it was like people like me are real critical of it because, one, you think it's like this impactful death, right? And then it turns out he escapes by crawling under some dumpster, right? And then they take a couple episodes where you think he's dead, and they don't bring him back until I think like 2 or 3 episodes from the mid-season finale to let you know he's still alive, only to kill him at the end of the season or the beginning of the next season. That would be exactly the same thing. If they brought Elsie, they made you think she was dead, didn't tell you that she was alive, or they gave you one hint that she was alive, and then when she comes back around the next season, if they kill her off, like, I'll be pissed if they do that.
So is Bernard making his own? Is Bernard making his own choices, Andy?
I don't know. Hold on. I want to hear what BBM had to say first.
No, I was continuing with another rant about Walking Dead, doing it again, but with a deer this time instead of a human. But you can continue, Andy.
All right. I think that he is kind of making his own choices, but he's being influenced by Ford. He still has what he's supposed to do. I think Ford's leading him on a path, but he does choose to lie to Elsie and not tell her, which makes you think that he's making his own decisions. But to me, that kind of points more towards Ford's making the decisions for him in that way, because he has good reason to not tell her the truth if it's Ford wanting something specific to happen, which I think is the case. And that's why Ford left her there right at that lab and then brought Bernard there, to knowing that they would get into that lab. So I don't think he's truly making all. I think he can make his own decisions, but he's being significantly led by Ford to make certain decisions.
I think he's 100% being driven by Ford. Jake Cruz is 50-50 on Bernard, and Iron Throne has a Q&A. I believe this one is for the BBM. Does Elsie have a Funko Pop?
Nope. He don't got one. Hector don't got one. Armistead don't got one. Like, those need to be made. At least bringing up Felix, but nope.
They need to get
into it. Grace, since Grace is freaking Emily thing, like, freaking make one of her. Like, we got season 2. Make a way for season 2, Funko. You got time. We don't need no more Batman's, freaking Deadpool, freaking Harley Quinn. No.
In that last, whatever we were talking about before, with the devil and the God thing, it made me think of what the Ghost Nation dude said about you're only alive until the last person who remembers you dies. Could that be a reference to Arnold actually being dead? Because Ford was the last person to remember Arnold, and now he's dead. So is that like truly the death of Arnold, or maybe there's some subtext to that? I mean,
well, according to you, Dolores is alive, and Dolores remembers Arnold, so no.
Oh, that's true. She does.
Those were the last two.
So maybe if Dolores dies, then Arnold's dead, and I don't know. And then maybe that's when Bernard can actually become Arnold. I don't know.
The new Alazzo said you must play this game alone. And not only did he let him keep Lawrence, but now he has basically Lawrence's whole family as a posse. Was this like just because he did a good deed, so it's like a bonus in the game, or why all of a sudden is he allowed to have people?
I think that's part of the game, is he has to earn these people. Like, he was just going to go in and take all these men, basically cheat the game. Whereas as he's playing the game, he actually had to, in order to gain people, he actually had to do something good. Like, he had to earn these people. So I don't think he's still playing it alone by having to gain followers in the proper way, if that makes any sense.
What do you think, BBM?
I have to agree with that, because it was funny how it was episode 2 or 3, was it, where, he tried to go get a whole bunch of like men, and then we see, Gus from Breaking Bad confirming that they sell chicken in Westworld, but all of them end up dying, but he was allowed to still have Lawrence. It's like, what's the whole deal with that? So I'm kind of agreeing with Andy said. I guess you just had to earn it, because even at the end of the episode, when he was talking to him, he was like, hey, my men will like freaking like help you out, and he was like, no. But I'm guessing still Lawrence is going to tag team up with them, or what? I wasn't like clear with that.
Yeah, me either. But why I say like getting the other guys would have been cheating is because he was going to use the fact of their narrative of like, hey, you are looking for this place, and I'm going to show you the real world. Your world is fake. Let me show you how the real world. And that's kind of cheating, right? You're manipulating these people using their the fact that they've reached the edge of their loop to your advantage, and that's cheating the game. Whereas he had to go into this town, save people, and those people chose to follow him because of what he did for them, rather than saying, hey, I know what you want, and I'm going to give it to you as long as you follow me.
Yeah, it's like getting a key to a treasure chest for a bonus in a game. Exactly. It's like, okay, you did something good, so now we're going to unlock this portion for you.
So you think that's why, you know, again, Dolores, even though she wanted to recruit the Confederates, in the end, she never even got them.
Yeah, I think she didn't actually want to recruit them. She wanted to use them the way she did. I think that was her plan all along, is to take out the people that were most likely to be coming after her. Give her.
Well, how did she use that, though? I mean, those guys were obviously, the people were coming, and they were going to get God anyway. Oh, so basically Dolores used them to kill the oncoming team.
Yeah.
That's what she used them for. And then she killed him when she used them for that, right?
Yeah. And maybe she has the same rules as William does. If she's the other person playing the game, maybe she has those same rules. She can't just use the fact that they've reached the edge of their narrative to do it. So that could be it, but it also could not be, because she chose to make that decision. But if we're going on that Ford still has some control over her, he could have possibly forced her to make that decision to kill all those people. So
I think my man Bernard answered it all. It's like, for anybody not on board, it's like Bernard said this is all Ford's plan. It's like he let us know. Ford made a game, and we're all in it. Straight out of Bernard's mouth. Ford made a game, and we're all in it. Like, doesn't that just... And again, I mean, Bernard could be lying, but to me, they're telling us. It's like, this is all what Ford wanted. This is all just his game. This is all his plan.
Sorry. I was just going to say, well, that can be true. That absolutely can be true, but there's players in a game. So there's certain people that can do what they want in the game, whereas everybody else has their roles to play.
Right. And some people say Ford is dead, but I mean, that still just ties back to like when Arnold told Dolores, she's like, are you going to change me? Are you going to turn me back? And he's like, no, I'm not going to roll you back. Let's see where this leads. And I believe there was a part when Ford was looking at Abernathy, and he's like, I wonder. And it's like, so I think that's just kind of on the same path as Arnold was. He's like, well, let's just see what happens when we do completely let them off their loops, and we'll go for it.
Yeah, maybe. I honestly don't know.
I'm just saying, I think he set out the guidelines, but I think his main thing was like he set out these certain paths, but like for the main part and killing all the other people, it's like he just let their hosts off their loops, and there it goes.
I think that, yeah, he set up the game and he picked certain people. Well, he picked people that he would be able to predict their actions, I think. Like Bernard's in the game, but he's being led along a certain path. Dolores is in the game. The Man in Black's in the game. Maeve's in the game. So there's these certain contenders for the game, but they're all people that Ford knows well and can predict their actions. And because you could cheat the game, right? The Man in Black's so good at Westworld, if he wanted to leave, he could. He could make it to the edge and just leave Westworld. But the Ford knows him well enough that knows that he's going to play the game. And
well,
Ford's
the Man in Black told Lawrence specifically, he's like, I didn't come here to leave this time. So, I mean, he's here to die, in my opinion. He just came here to die, or he came for the upload. So, I don't know, one way or the other. Like, he told Lawrence specifically, he's like, I'm not leaving this time. So, in my opinion, one way or the other, he came here to die.
Yeah, that's true. Like, but I think that, well, Ford is setting everybody on their path, keeping them on the board, basically. but giving them hints to where they need to go. You're right. The Man in Black, I think he does not plan. He thought he was going to die here once he got he finished his game, or finished. He wanted to find the maze, but now there's a new game. But Ford's giving him clues on how to play the game as well. He's setting him up to see himself in the host. And even at the end, like the little girl talking as Ford, like, hey, just one good deed doesn't change everything. But that's like a hint towards like you are on the right path, but it's not one action can't undo everything you've done. But I think that is Ford leading him, saying, hey, you're on the right path, but you got to keep going, right? This isn't the end of the game, or whatever.
Well, speaking of the end of the game, we come to the end of the show, and they do just an awesome panoramic view of everybody riding into the sunset down in the desert, and that was a pretty sick shot. But then he come up, and we don't hear a hi, baby, hi, daughter, hi, Emily, hi, Grace. We hear a hi, daddy. And I know you guys had to just be giddy. It's like, confirmed, done deal, Man in Black's daughter, called that shit, done. But, again, what is the deal with the name Grace, Emily? Where are we going? Why didn't they, what is up with that? Like, where do we go from here? We know we're going into Shogun World next week, but what's happening what happens with the Man in Black and Gracie from here? Emily, Emily, how are we going to say this one? Emily.
We kind of can speculate, and 50, you just have to wait and see because, well, did the Man in Black know that she was in a different world? Maybe, maybe not. We don't even know if they have even like reconciled because the Man in Black talks about like they freaking like had like their own thing where she blames the Man in Black for like mother to call suicide. And we just already see that she's like saying like hello dad. Doesn't mean like they're friendly. Next scene we can see her like take out a gun and just shoot him in the arm or something. She can just end up getting off the horse. He gets off the horse, he smacks him or decks him. We don't know. Like obviously it kind of seems like she just possibly just went immediately to Westworld because the moment where the hosts are actually like killing guests now, she's like, okay, there's only one person who possibly knows like what's up. And that's my dad. So let me just go straight to freaking Westworld to find him and see if by chance if it's happening there. Like even though she hates him, she still loves him. It's like that unconditional love there. So I'm guessing that's the route that they're playing with. But Grace isn't freaking. I'm guessing if she's in Russia or whatever, and like she doesn't want her father to know type deal, she called herself Grace. But again, we never heard in the show her name is Grace. It's been IMBD. So again, they could just be driving us off this other rail. Like until we hear her actually say that the character is on the show, someone calls her Grace, that's one other thing. Because maybe, if Stubbs knew her, or so maybe he could have called her Grace. Who knows? But I still got my tinfoil theory that the chick who Sizemore was freaking dating was her. I'm calling it.
Sizemore was dating Sizemore was dating Emily?
Yeah.
And that's who Hector and Armistice is supposed to be?
Why else would he get that job? And when we know that Ford hated him, so it's like kind of see a little bit of like it.
Maybe.
To your first question, maybe her name is Emily Grace. That seems like a reasonable name, Emily Grace.
Plus, we don't know William's last name yet.
Yeah. So this kind of makes me think about like, what if he has another daughter? Because if you remember when he was in the town and like Craddock was trying to give Lawrence's wife to give him like the nitro to kill him, the Man in Black starts having these flashbacks of what we assume is his wife, right? In the bathtub, bleeding, like there's all the blood leaking. You see the wrist, and it seems like someone slit their wrist, right? But the Man in Black tells Teddy that his wife took wrong pills. And what reason does he have to lie if he's just going to say that his daughter said it was on purpose and suicide anyways? What reason would he have to lie about that?
Well, maybe that's how he subjects it, is he says she took the wrong pills and just didn't say the rest of the story. She took the wrong pills, which made her tweak out and kill herself.
Could be, but that's not like a surefire way to kill yourself. If
I think when he came upon the body, he thought that, wait a minute, she took the wrong pills. That's why she died. But then the daughter saw, like, for what it actually was, she committed suicide.
Well, you can see, like, it's not only in the bathtub with the blood coming out, but you can see a man running upstairs. That's like seemed to be supposed to be William, maybe running upstairs to find his wife who killed herself. But what if, like, he has two daughters and one, like, the mom overdosed on purpose, and then the one daughter kills herself after that? Like, we don't know for sure, and that's a crazy tinfoil theory.
No, it's not crazy, because I was going to ask you, does he have two daughters? About when I was asking you guys about the Gracie Emily thing, I was actually, that's where I was kind of going with that, is there a possibility he has two daughters? But then we kind of got sidetracked. So I like that. The mom, maybe a daughter killed herself, and that's why the mom ended up killing herself, because of the daughter's death?
Or the other way around. Like, I was trying to kind of getting at the other way around, but it could be that way as well. But I just thought it was weird that we know that she overdosed on pills, or that she took the wrong pills, and that they would show her killing herself. It just doesn't make sense. Maybe if he was trying to hide the fact that she killed herself, that would make sense to say, oh, she took the wrong pills and died. But he immediately after that says, like, my daughter says that she did it intentionally. She killed herself. So why the lie about that?
We never saw the actual body. What if she did just kill herself with pills, and we heard him say that Logan couldn't handle reality either? He killed himself. What if the person in the tub is Logan, and that's how he killed himself? And we just kind of twisted that up. What's that?
Didn't we see blood in the tub?
Yeah, I'm saying that's what's it. What if it was Logan?
Overdose, so that can't be then.
Logan overdosed. They said that.
Yeah, Logan did overdose.
So that's just like a thought. Like,
no, I like it. I like it. And either way, you know, the mom killed themselves first. It could be another daughter. Absolutely. Maybe Emily killed herself, and Gracie's the one still alive. That's absolutely a possibility. That'd be a sick call if you did it, though. I love it. I love it.
Or
she started calling herself by her middle name after her mother died. That's true, too. Ian says Grace Emily Teresa.
It could just be another William family. Actually, it can actually be William's actual family member that actually died. Who knows? It could just be another one we're learning. So it doesn't add up there. If it was, if she supposedly committed suicide through pills, like, I don't know. Or he just simply lied about her supposed death or something. I don't know. I don't know. It's like,
that's the weird thing. There's no reason for him to lie about it to a host, right? And in the end, say that it was suicide. And the thing is that really throws me off is they actually showed that part before the episode. So it's not like it would be some misstep by the creators, right? They specifically showed him telling Teddy that she took the wrong pills and she died that way.
Unless she took pills that made her go to a suicide reign or something. Maybe that's what he thought. Because if you take too much of certain pills, don't you, like, begin to lose it mentally? And maybe it cause you to do suicide? So it could be something like that.
Yeah, it very well could be, but they're her pills, right?
Nope, leaving that now. Forget that. Man Black has another daughter. She took pills and made her think a whole bunch of mess. It made her commit suicide. It's a chain reaction.
We'll go with it. He has another daughter.
No. That's just more characters now.
The thing about the wrong pills, though, is if presumably they're her pills, right? If she took the wrong pills, like, so Are they gonna pills
taking
that she
the
was
father
already?
thing. She could either take the father pills, or she could have took the pills that were mom with her own stroke type of thing. Maybe she had pills to help her with her stroke, but that was that one stroke that killed her. Like, there's a whole bunch of side effects to pills, so I don't know.
I don't know either.
Who told James Delos? Remember when he was talking last episode with William, and he said, somebody told me I may not have to be stepping down. And then William's like, oh, we just need a little patience. And he's like, oh, some of us can afford to have more patience than others. But who is the person that told James Delos that he wouldn't have to be stepping down? And why did he tell him that?
Probably researchers researching into that. Like, maybe they were getting close to where they thought that could happen. And he's still like the head of the company. So he would be able to talk with researchers, know what's going on in that company, and say, hey, like, we're almost with the technology we have, we might be able to do this. And so that's him telling William, someone told me I might not have to step down if I can stay alive forever. So it could be just some researchers ahead of the research.
Yeah, could be. What do we need? What are we looking forward to seeing in BBM? If you're there, what are we looking forward to seeing in Samurai World next week?
Second, one more question about this episode now.
What's that?
One more question. Now, previous episode, Bernard looks at that tablet. He looks like he's seen the information. So it's like, was that information that he saw in that tablet what they were doing in, that little facility with James? You think that was what he saw?
When he was with Abernathy, when he saw Abernathy?
Yeah, and then when he actually, used that one access one-time code, and he looks like he actually saw what was inside. Do you think that's what he saw, what they were doing with James Delos?
I think he just saw inside James Delos's head, and that's how he knew everything that was in there. But I think he said Ford was the one that directed him to that cave in the first place, so that was Ford's doing, telling him to go there the whole time.
But what BBM's asking is, like, it is what he saw in Abernathy's head, all the information about what they were doing with James Delos, like all the research, or was it something else?
I think it was everything. I think it was all the DNA samples that they've been collecting and that, because they said, they made special note of like how big a capacity, basically like how big a hard drive this guy is. So I think they put everything in there and tried to get it all out in one swoop.
See, I think it was multiple people's consciousness. Like James Delos was the first one that they were trying to do it on, but they probably talked about it with other elite people and were like, hey, we are working on this technology. We're testing it. If you're about to die, we can do this surgery or whatever, get this information, and we can basically extract your consciousness and in the future be able to upload it into a host body. And so they tell people about this, and that's where all that information is, like or everybody's consciousness, as well as all the DNA and stuff from all the information they collected. But I think there's multiple people that haven't invested their consciousness into this research and are hoping to be brought back alive, and that's what they're trying to get out.
Oh, I think so too. It's like almost like what if this is all the major plan in the first place? Like basically, we heard Logan say that may your forevers be blissfully short. It's like these guys have just killed the human race and they don't even realize it. They just lit the match and don't even realize it. So basically, what if that party was all the people from the board, and basically Ford is in conjunction with these guys and they're all actually on the same team, and this was all a planned deal, and now all the board's here, and this is basically how they're going to kill them all. And it's like, you know what, we're not going to do a mass suicide, or we're not going to just sit there and put you in the lab and just inject you. We'll make it fun, like what it is. You guys all come in, we'll do the Westworld thing, we'll have a last little thing, and this is the journey into the long night. And his narrative is to have the host come in, kill them all, and then he's going to start, uploading everybody's consciousness into the appropriate host. What if that was all the major plan in the first place? What?
Well, I'm thinking like, if you have enough DNA, like I'm trying to think about the logistics of taking somebody else's consciousness, right, and uploading it. Like if you get all the information from their brain, and like I said, if our brains are just computers as well in different way, if you can take all that stuff from their brain in Westworld without them being even aware of it, they may have a way of doing that. Plus their DNA, like they could live their life, and then once they die, it's not like at the end they're taking their consciousness. They're basically cloning, creating a new person with all your previous memories and everything you have, but putting it into a robot body. And so you effectively have a clone that is in a computer waiting to be put into a new body. I'm wondering about like if that's what they're doing to all the people in the world, or that have visited Westworld.
So yeah, the same thing. Yeah, people are coming to the Westworld. They're collecting their DNA, and they're getting all their memories, all their actions, how they act. They're getting to know them better than they know themselves. And then when it's time to go, they upload it into the appropriate host. And I think that's what this maybe final party is. When everybody comes to see Ford, he's like the head guinea pig. He's like, boom, here I am killing myself, and everybody else is going to die, and we're all going to get uploaded into the host, and then we're all going to live in Westworld together.
So I don't know if it's that, because they obviously, the people there didn't seem willing to be killed. They were like running and trying to get away. And
human instinct. If somebody tries to kill you, it is human instinct to fight back. It's impossible not to.
Yeah, but if you know that you're going,
it hurts. So it's like it's not like, okay, we're just gonna drink something. We're just gonna like freaking like drift off.
No, they made a gnarly ass game out of it.
Mm-hmm. To the point that maybe that was like the whole thing. Maybe they were supposed to like take a toast, and then they were all supposed to like freaking like die painlessly. But then all of a sudden, like Ford's like, nope. Hosts start coming in and start shooting up the place. This isn't like freaking like painless death. This is actually, we're actually gonna actually freaking die and whatnot. But
because they said, you become more conscious and become more awake through pain and struggle. So maybe they have to go out in a horrid way for it to work, for the combination and the meld to work.
I don't know. I don't know about all that. I think that's a little too much. I think I don't know. Like, I just don't think if you knew, hey, we're going to all do this where we upload our consciousness, but let's make it a big farce where we get rid of Ford and he kills himself first, and then we all run and hide as they hunt us down and kill us in gruesome ways. Like, that's not something I would want to be a part of. I would be more of like, hey, how about you just put me under and then kill me that way.
No. Yeah, I think Ford is definitely just, I don't think the board members thought they were part of it. I think Ford's killing them off to take over Delos. Basically, like I said, a couple weeks ago, it's like they thought they were going to steal the park from Ford. He's going to flip the script on everybody and be like, you thought you were taking my shit? No. Here, not only am I keeping my shit, but now I'm going to take your shit. And he's going to replace all the appropriate board members with different people. And I think he's already starting with Charlotte Hale. I think that's already fucking somebody he's included, and that's somebody that the man in black doesn't even realize is on his side. It's either that's a host that Ford implanted, or that's Logan's daughter. I'm like 50-50 on him, but I think that's Logan's daughter or implant by Ford. But yeah.
I think Charlotte's definitely a host, but I don't know if like she's like a special, well, I think she's a special kind of new host. But I don't think she was a person at one point. I think she was planted there as a host. high up in the company so that Ford could keep an eye on it. Or she might have even been a host created by Delos. Who knows? Like, they apparently are going into technology, hiding stuff from Ford. So, yeah, I don't know.
What do you think, BBM? I know you don't think she's a host. Where are you at on the Charlotte Hale situation?
She's just an ordinary person being used by the board, but she can be a double agent for someone else. She's not a host, so.
Iron Throne thinks, what if half is in Peter Abernathy and half is in Bernard? They split up all that information that was in Abernathy.
Sure.
You think Bernard has any of that in him?
I think either he took it from Abernathy or he saw enough so he knows what all that information was and was like, you know what, no one deserves this. So we just simply deleted it from Abernathy. That's how I see it. I don't think it's still in Abernathy for some reason.
Well, it looks like he got interrupted. Like, I think Iron Throne's point is it looked like he got kind of maybe interrupted, like half upload. So maybe he uploaded half of it and only got half of it in.
Dolores finds him again, figures out he has information in it, and uploads it into her.
Oh, that'd be a sick little twist. I like that. Definitely like that.
Or even crazier, Maeve's daughter. So then it's like, oh, Maeve has to freaking help Dolores now.
No, I think Maeve definitely is going against Dolores. I think that's a good thought. Like, that he could have stole half that information. Like, because obviously Delos, by the time we see them and the rescue people coming in, they don't have all the information because they were still asking about Abernathy. And so it'd be interesting if he does have, a portion of the information that Abernathy had in him. But if that's the case, wouldn't Elsie have seen it when she was looking at his program and stuff?
She was digging around in there, but not if she didn't know what she was looking for. I mean, it could have just been robot stuff. But yeah, that is a good point. It's like Elsie's on top of her shit, so she would have noticed. And she specifically said, yeah, I noticed your memories aren't addressed, so you're not going to be able to tell what time they're in. So, I mean, she made a point of saying, I was digging around in your brain or in your code. So, I mean, yeah, it seems like she definitely should have noticed something. Yeah, that's interesting. There's a few things with the Elsie situation. Like how many different timelines it is, how many times like Bernard thought she was there, but then specifically said, you're not here, are you? Or what time is this? When is this? So that whole Elsie situation is like 4 different timelines running through there, which is really kind of crazy.
And they switched it up this season so that you can't do the same stuff you did before. With Dolores, you could distinguish timelines a little bit with Dolores by assuming that every time you didn't see somebody with her in frame, that she was in a different timeline. But they switched that up with Bernard because you could actually see Elsie in the frame with him, but he wasn't actually with her at that time. He was at a different time. So they are switching that up a bit to where you may not be able to tell by their surroundings.
Yeah, they found a way to make it even more confusing.
Yeah, because I think, last season they thought they would trick enough people, I believe, by, cutting between showing Dolores sitting there talking to, like on the train, for instance, talking to William and Lawrence, and then she turns around and the camera turns and you assume that Lawrence and William are behind the camera, but in reality, it's a different timeline and she's there by herself. So they were trying to trick you with your assumption, but now they're actually bringing it in where the person's still in frame, but Bernard's not actually there.
Yeah, double dipping with a mirror image. It's just insanity. All right, well, before we go into predictions and what we want to see, is there anything else, BBM, you'd like to say or bring up about this episode that we all love so very much?
Yeah, I already said all I had to say about this episode from beginning to end. I'm gonna start like rewatching, these streams, just jot down all my predictions and theories and stuff like I would agree with, didn't agree with, I was on the fence with, so it could be a little bit easier. But I don't know. I can't even predict like what's gonna happen next week's episode because that whole episode is pretty much, from my knowledge, is gonna be the Shogun episode. So it's pretty much gonna be like the Maven crew in freaking Shogun world. But the thing is, it's like all the people there, are there gonna be like awakened hosts there as well? Are they gonna be helping out Maeve and thing, or they might just actually end up trying to actually kill them? Then like one freaking samurai is like, wait a minute, we shouldn't kill them. Is that one samurai that's like, wait, we shouldn't kill them under the influence of Ford? That's my guess.
There you go. Scale of 1 to 10, what do you get to this last episode, The Riddle of the Sphinx?
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10, baby.
Possibly the best episode of the series. I'm not going to say the season. I'm saying the series so far.
I don't know if I can argue with that. What about you, Andy? 1 out of 10, what do you give this episode?
Definitely a 10. I'm with BBM. This might be the best episode of the series so far, which is very promising that it wasn't like a one-season wonder in my eyes. That they're still keeping us guessing on stuff and able to drop major bombs, which I was worried about this season, the possibility of, for them to have these big things where they were able to drop them on us. And we're like, holy shit, I didn't know if they were going to be able to do it this season. And this episode clearly shows that they can still do it. If you look hard enough at something, you can predict where they're leading, which keeps us engaged. And like I said, they can drop their bombs and confirm your theories or blow them apart. And 10 out of 10 episode for me.
Nice. I can't argue. I mean, definitely top 3, probably a top 2. God, the finale last year was pretty epic, tying all those things in for us. And this was the same way. They tied in some stuff. They gave us some more questions on top of it. They answered some stuff without answering it, like the whole Emily and Gracie thing. And I mean, just have us completely enthralled. Everybody that I know is super excited to see it next week and where it's going. And yeah, unbelievable. It's going to be epic. What do you think, Andy? What's going to happen in Samurai World next week?
See, this is a tough one. That's the thing about dropping a bomb, like with so many theories that we have built up in the early parts that we thought were going to start unraveling at the end. To drop that bomb in the middle, it's hard to predict where they're going to be going now. So I'm trying to think back to what Maeve is trying to get to her daughter. So we're going to get her having to deal with hosts and situations that she can't that are going to be tough for her to get out of without actually controlling hosts. Like, is she willing to die for her cause of letting the host be free? Because we see what happens when hosts get to the end of their narrative. They go crazy and they kill other hosts. And so how is Maeve going to convince them to join her cause? I think that she's going to start collecting her army. Obviously, we're going to get introduced to some new villains for Maeve. But it looks like she's going to hook up with another woman who is going to, who's going to, be on her side, maybe help her cause. But I think this is Maeve more building her army for the eventual clash with Dolores. So maybe if you guys got something else that you think might happen, I might be able to add on to that, but it's hard to predict what exactly is going to happen in Shogun World.
Oh, yeah, it's a completely new world, a completely new sectors we haven't seen before. I just love how they showed us, like, Maeve is going to run into Asian Maeve, and Asian Maeve looks like she got some ninja skills. she's gonna be getting down. But when she first meets her, she's like finishing her sentences, like, "Yeah, you're me. We both been written by the same thing. Check this." And yeah, they're gonna be partners, and I am excited to see it. It's gonna be dope.
I didn't see the promo.
Oh, you didn't see all that? Oh yeah,
No.
they say yeah. Maeve is basically gonna run into Asian Maeve, and yeah, it's gonna be tight because Asian Maeve got skills. She's like pulling pins out of her back of her hair, and like she's got some skills. She's gonna be tearing people up. She's like, yeah, you're good with words, but watch this shit. She's like, I got ninja skills. So yeah, excited to see it. Don't know what's gonna happen next week, but we're definitely gonna get it in one way or the other. What's that?
I got a couple of things. I had stuff written down. A couple of things I wanted to go over.
Absolutely.
You remember when I said the description of what was happening to Bernard in his brain, like the cognitive dissonance and all that, all the things that he was experiencing based on him losing the fluid in his brain was actually describing you as a viewer, like the things you going through, like you don't know the time, you don't know the timeline you're in.
Yeah, like when Elsie told us that they're not addressed and they're all mumble jumbled, that's basically her telling like that's us, the same thing.
Yeah, as the viewer. So I wanted to bring up that confirming we don't know when something is, when we're experiencing it. They threw that at us again as the viewer, like we're experiencing the same thing.
Guaranteeing timelines, different timelines.
When the door was closing on the elevator, when they were going down in that lab, it had two doors that closed, and it kind of paused on 12 for a second. Like that was lab 12. So I wonder if there's something more to that if you watch it again, it closes, one door closes, and then the one closes outside it. But they made sure to show like the number 12, and there was no reason not to cut the scene once the door closed, like the elevator doors closed. So I think
they were in Sector 22 when they're outside in the cave.
Yeah, so I'm curious as to what that 12, the significance of that, like if there's other things going on. And then one of the other things I found on my notes is what is Man in Black's daughter actually doing in the parks? What's her purpose in the parks? What do you think? Like we keep going on about Man in Black, but what is she doing there?
I think she wants to see, especially after her mother killed herself over all this, which, you know, like I said, I think the mom killed herself because of all this, that she knew that William was in love with a robot and couldn't kick it. So she uploads herself into Dolores. And I think the daughter is just basically coming in. She's like, what did my mom die for? What had you so enthralled that you would rather be here than your family? And I think that's just her whole deal, is going into the park to see it. She's like, what is it that you saw in this? What did you love about it so much? Because she hates it, obviously. She's not even having sex with hosts. She's not really using it to its full capacity. So, and right off the bat, they're like, you just here for the hunt, or what are you here for? And she's like, to kill time, among other things. So, I mean, fuck, is she just there to kill her dad? And they said, she's like, would your daughter want to see you gunned down? And he said, probably. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe she's there to kill him.
Oh, go ahead.
That she's just there to destroy all the parks, period. And you know what? It's possible that Charlotte's not even working for the board. She's working for some other player. But that player is freaking Emily Grace. That's who she's working for this whole time.
Could be. I think that's more plausible than DJs that she wants to experience the park, or what was so important to the Man in Black, because we know that she's well experienced in the parks. Like she understands the language, so she's been to the park a shit ton, so she would understand why her dad loved the park so much. So I don't know about that, but she could be there to kill him. Like I agree with that. Like maybe they had a preset thing. Like maybe he set it up in this way that she's supposed to find him and kill him or something like that. Because, like he said, his daughter would want to see him dead, and he did know that he wasn't going to leave the park. So maybe he knew that she was going to be coming to kill him. I don't know. I just thought that was like interesting. That's another question, is what she's actually doing in the park. And I think that's all I had written down.
Honestly, I thought you had written down me and DJ's, all of our speeches and theories written down. And you're going to be like, well, you guys are hosts. Proof.
Oh, maybe. Dang it. That's weird. Maybe like the Westworld is like a fidelity test for everybody. Like if you were going to copy someone's consciousness, having these constant loops that people could, or like narratives that people could do over and over and over again, maybe that's a fidelity test for people, like gaining knowledge to their consciousness. Like that's stuff you have to do. So maybe the people that have been there the most are most susceptible to getting their consciousness stolen or uploaded into a host, because they have done the same thing over and over again, and they can gather data on their decisions or the things they say in these situations.
You know what we didn't bring up? Like in season 1, the first episode, we see that couple, Craig and Lori, I think that's their names. And they like Craig's the one who shot Hector. And this in this episode, we see them again. Like they're brought up a second time now. It's like it's a coincidence. Like we keep seeing those two guests. Like, do they serve a purpose?
I think they're serving the purpose to show that the natives aren't killing real humans. Like, because we already know.
Stubbs, though.
What's that?
They could have did that with Stubbs and Grace. Like, he could have just simply been Stubbs alone, and then bring in the captured Grace. They both two could have had like a conversation. She escapes. Ghost Nation can again. Look like they're gonna kill Stubbs or not, but they literally showed us those two. It could have been other extras or like random guests, but they specifically showed them two.
Yeah,
I think it's because go ahead, but I think it's because there was still a question if Stubbs and this Grace person are hosts. Like there are still theories out there that think both of them are hosts. And I think, like I said, again, I think we know for a fact that those two are humans. So I think that was like to reiterate that Ghost Nation isn't killing humans.
Yeah, I think it was to show that the Ghost Nation is going around the park collecting up like innocent people. Like keep trying to protect people that just went to the park to experience it, because we know we can recognize those people. And it's just showing that Ghost Nation is rounding up the people that just paid to go to the park, and so that they weren't caught, or so as few people as possible weren't caught up in the plot to kill off the board members, because those are the people that they wanted to be killed. So Ghost Nation is getting the other people. Maybe.
Seem plausible to you, BBM?
Oh, excellent. I remember having here written down those two people. I'm like, wait a minute. Why did I have them written down? Okay, yeah, because like they were seen in season 1, now seeing it again. You guys may pull up arguments against it. Like they're not just there for purposely, this is there simply to show Stubbs and Grace are human.
Absolutely. I think so. Any other questions we had before we move it on up to the next one?
Pretty much it.
Pretty much those answered. Everybody in the chat, we answered all those questions. Everybody good with that? I want to thank everybody that stopped by tonight to kick it with us. I know it is a kind of a long one, but boy, this was a great episode. We had to get into it and see what's going on. Definitely made some cool calls. I think we got a lot more down the way. I think we made some more on this show, and I think we are absolutely on our way to figuring this out well before the 10th episode. I think we have some major in-game theories that are going to come to light here pretty quick. But I definitely want to thank my co-host for coming on here and doing this with me week in and week out. I definitely have a blast, and you help me understand it so much better. And the chat coming out and helping us, we are definitely, absolutely, 100% going to figure this out. We are bound and determined to do it. BBM, what do you got going on for the rest of this week?
Well, if you want to see my reaction and review to this episode of Westworld, it is up on my channel starting tomorrow, which is kind of like today right now. I'll be reacting to Legion and the 100. After that will be the originals, and then Thursday I'll do the back-to-back season finale of not one but two shows, Supernatural and Gotham, which is renewed for a fifth and final season, though, 13 episodes. So I honestly cannot wait how it's going to end this season. But thank you for having me on, DJ. Good talking to theories with you and Andy. Some I agreed with, some I didn't, some I was on the fence halfway, but cannot wait to see, what's going to go down in Shogun World this Sunday.
Nice, nice. I am loving Gotham. We might have to pop off a special little stream for that one after the finale, because Gotham is where it's at. If you guys are sleeping on Gotham, get in there and watch it. It started out slow, but it has come full circle, and that is a great show. But my man Snafu, what do you got going on? Games, videos? What are you going to be doing?
Well, I'm going on vacation, so I won't be doing anything at least for a week. I'm going to try to make sure that I can get on here on Monday. So if we do it, not necessarily as late as tonight, but if we can do it maybe an hour later than normal or something, it'll probably help with my ability to go on. I'll be streaming from my phone if that's the case. But so I'll try to get on this. If I only do one stream, it'll be on this next week. And yeah, I got nothing else. I love being on here. It's good to have someone who is basically the Occam's razor in BBM. He's like the most simple answer is probably the correct one. You guys are freaking overthinking it. So yeah, it's good to have someone with a little bit of reality in between me and DJ's opposing tinfoil. So yeah, and thanks for having me on as always. Good to have the opposing opinion with you, DJ. We're both fucking crazy out there with our theories, but it's a lot of fun trying to figure it out, and we're pretty good at it as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's how you figure it out. We got both ends of the spectrum covered, and then we got my man just balancing it right in the middle, and that's how we do it. That's how we are going to get it figured out. So until next Monday, or actually probably Friday or someday this week, we might do another review with the crew this week, and if we get some more information or have some more thoughts that come out, we'll pop back on and do another review like we've been in the last couple of weeks. And other than that, we will definitely be on next Monday night, breaking down the next one and seeing where we go from there. So hope everybody has an absolutely excellent weekend, and make sure you do what you do. And until next time, game on.